Well, hello everybody, and welcome back. Well, I'm welcome me back because I'm back, and therefore that
He's
means you
back.
guys are back. I'm back. I went and had, went back to the Western world a little bit for a little while. Not impressed, but that's okay.
Yeah,
It's the second time. I was in Germany too, right? Which I enjoyed a lot better, actually, even though the Germans are morons. I did enjoy it a lot better as far as this one goes. But in Germany, I had more of my own free time. You know,
mm,
this time I did get dragged around a lot, and you have to try this, and they took me here, there, and stuff. So I didn't get, this time was better though because I did have my wife with me, which was nice. Um, because they were able to schedule a meeting for her company with a Danish company that they're doing business with. So that kind of worked out. So I actually went to Copenhagen as well as Paris, well outside Paris, but of course, I went into Paris. I have to say though, I wasn't very impressed with the food in France. I expected it. I've grown up my whole life. It's like you just entered Wonderland, right? So it's going to be
yeah,
amazing. No, it's very salty. It's very
a lot of
salty,
salt.
a lot of salt. But
Huh.
the croissants were badass though, dude. Badass.
Uh, Listen, if you go to France and they somehow screw up bread, uh, there's just you might as well just go home
Yeah,
because
no,
that's what they got. That's their big claim to fame is the baguette and the croissant
yeah,
and then a crepe. And if they screw those up, just might as well leave. You can get
well,
everything else you're gonna get there. You can get anywhere else,
that's
or
right,
you can just go eat snails if you want to be some kind of disgusting grub like
right.
creature.
No, I agree
You can
with
eat
that
snails.
100%. Yeah, but well, the baguette technically is Italian. It's not French anyway. But and the
Yeah, but
crepes,
the
I'd
French
never.
kinda like claimed it. It's kinda like their stereotype is a baguette with the French.
I guess, but they're wrong. And the crepe, I've never liked crepes. Are you a crepe person?
Not really.
My
Well,
type.
over here, we'll have crepes, but they're not really crepes, right, in America.
Yeah,
But the ones from the Europe, when I was over in London, we had some, and they
soft and
weren't the best.
mushy. Yeah, ugh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I don't know what happened. I don't know how Europe got the food wrong. But then when they brought it to America, we somehow got it right. But
yeah.
we did. We made all of it better. I don't care what anybody says. American versions of ethnic European food are better.
Well, it's because we are a cosmopolitan place. So there's all kind of, it's not, when you have Italian food, it's not just Italians influencing, it's other people
Yeah.
too, right? So you have
Yeah.
that spark of, invention coming from all different, cultures and minds. I think that's probably the big part of it.
Yep.
But yeah, I was a bit surprised with it. Although interestingly enough, my wife really enjoyed the food because she's not sensitive anyway. She'll eat anything. But she thought she enjoyed herself. I was like, eh. I wasn't really that impressed with it. But I enjoy Copenhagen better. But because I was able to walk around with my wife and for a few days and do pretty much what we wanted. She had some meetings and they did drag us out to one, you know, business dinner. But in general, we were able to kind of do things more of our on our own, and that was like Copenhagen is absolutely gorgeous city, by the way. The
Yep.
food is just fine; it's normal. Once again, I wasn't overly impressed, but I've been living over here in Asia too long. I think my taste has
Mm,
changed. But it's
probably.
a gorgeous, gorgeous place, Denmark. Dude, go to Denmark if you
I'd
have an
love to.
option. It is
Yeah.
beautiful. France is filthy.
Yes. What a surprise. The French are filthy. They always have been filthy
Yeah,
degenerates.
it
Uh,
it is. The
I have
streets
no
are.
interest in France. There's a lot of people want to go to France, Paris, especially. If I was going to go anywhere in France, it would probably be the Northeast, the Brittany area. That'd
Mm,
be much more my speed, I think. But everywhere else in France, I'm not interested in. I'd rather go to Spain or Italy, probably. Obviously,
yeah.
pretty much just anywhere but France in Europe. I wouldn't mind seeing. I
Well,
have no desire for France.
well, with this lecture, I don't want to call it a tour because it's spread out over no, multiple years, but this lecture thing I'm doing,
Hmm.
is going to take me to a few places. So, what that's nice. I have to say
Yeah.
the university we were at was outside, just outside of Paris. not very far. So most all my time was spent in Paris itself, in and around Paris. That was nice though. The architecture was gorgeous. Being an
Yeah.
anthropologist, I do appreciate that. So that was nice. But yeah, Copenhagen was better, much better, dude. Yeah.
If I had to pick, like, say somebody was like, "You can go anywhere in Europe one time, blah, blah, blah," like, I got a free trip, probably for me, it would be Rome, just because it's Rome,
mm.
in Europe specifically. Now, if I was able to go anywhere in the world like that, that'd be a harder choice, but if Europe specifically, I'd like to go to Rome, go to the Colosseum and stuff, check all that out, it'd be
Yeah, me
sweet.
too. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'd like to go to Turkey. I'd love to go to
Yeah,
Lebanon.
yeah.
But Lebanon is,
Well, I've
oh
been
my God, dude.
basically to Lebanon. I've been right on the border and I could see into Lebanon because
Right.
when I went over to Israel, we did like a tour because a lot of the like biblical sites aren't in Israel anymore because Israel's a lot smaller than it was back then.
Sure. Yeah.
So like we were gonna go to Damascus, but we didn't because it's in Syria. But we did
Yeah.
go up the coast a little bit into Jordan, and then we went up onto like a hillside where I'm pretty sure it was when we went to what they think is Jericho, and
All right.
it was right by Lebanon. Like you could see into Lebanon from there. So it was very interesting. It was a very interesting little tour. But I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind going to Lebanon. I just want to travel again. One of the reasons I want to make some money is because growing up, I traveled a lot. My parents and I did, and I really like traveling the world. It's just the world's an amazing place.
It
I
is.
think a lot of the problems Americans have on at any side of the political spectrum is they've never left America. They have no idea. Hell, most of them haven't even left the town they grew up in. They have no idea what they're missing by not going and seeing it. There's just so much cool stuff out there, even in America and outside of America. I'm so glad that I've had the opportunity to travel around. I would like to go to like Egypt as well. Like the ancient places would be nice to me. I'd
Yeah.
like to go to more Mesopotamia, but then you got to deal with a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, and
Uh,
unfortunately, there's some bad things going on. I mean, Lebanon has always
yeah,
been a vibrant, beautiful place with some of the most amazing food on earth. But
yeah,
right now, you guys remember that big explosion they had a couple of years back, right?
yep.
The explosion at the nitrate at the dock. Well, it absolutely collapsed their entire government and economy.
Oh,
It's insane how bad, dude. They literally do not have power 24 hours a day.
wow,
They only get a few hours a day of power. It costs The inflation rate is like basically at a rate of about 16 to 20 times.
wow.
Yeah, no, it's depressingly sad, dude. Yeah.
That is sad.
Because it is such a beautiful place, Lebanon. And of course, what happened to Syria too. It's just disgusting. But next, I'm going to Prague, so that will be
Oh
my
yeah.
next thing. I've never been
I
there
hear
either.
I hear the old Czech is a beautiful place. I've never been either.
Hey, maybe
But
I should check out Shabby.
you should. I don't know if he lives in Prague or not, but he's definitely in the country somewhere.
Well,
It's not that big of a country. Maybe you can find him.
it's a long way away, so I'll have time to have a chat with him. But
Yeah,
that would be nice to meet someone from the channel or the
that'd be cool.
channels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially of all places, right in Eastern Europe.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually looking forward to Prague as architecturally is a gorgeous place, dude.
Oh man, you got to go to the National Library in Prague. Have you ever seen the pictures inside of that thing?
Oh no, I
Oh,
have. Yeah, no, it's a beautiful
oh
place.
my
I'm
gosh, I'd
looking
love to
forward.
go check that out. Just get lost in there for a few hours. Oh man.
Yeah. The interesting thing too is, of course, in Copenhagen, everyone spoke English. They sound like Americans, dude. Right? Uh, uh, and to be honest, Denmark is not much bigger than Copenhagen. It's basically a city state. Is really what
Yeah.
Denmark is. They have some other cities, I suppose, but that's really what it is. But they said they do sound like Americans. Every now and then you hear some weird little use of a vowel, but in general, it was as if being home. And the funny thing, of course, in France, no one wants to speak English to you,
Even though
right?
they do.
Even
Yeah.
though they do. But I can get along with French, no problem. As far as just going around buying shit. But the
Right,
funny
right.
thing is, in the actual conference, and all the little extra stuff, it was English everywhere all the time, right?
Yeah.
Germany was too, by
It's
the
the
way.
trade language.
It is, and so it was very easy for me and my wife to get along. Like I said, this was cooler because she could come with me. because she has her responsibilities as well. But she and her company were able to, like I said, kind of match the timing up because they are doing business with a Danish company. So
Yeah. Sounds like
that
it was a good time though. That's
it
good.
was. We did enjoy ourselves as far as just looking stuff because she's been to Europe before. She's been to far many more places in Europe than I have actually.
Yeah.
But before she was doing it with like girlfriends when they went over, just kind of rich kids doing their thing in Europe, right? But
Mhm.
she to go with your significant other is a very different event, right? So that
Mm.
was
Yeah.
nice. But like I said, I was really shocked by the food because I've been in the French airport many times, right?
Mhm.
I just was there not too long ago when I went to Malta. I was there multiple times going back and forth to Malta, right? But I
Mhm.
had never really went into the city and just kind of did anything, right? I imagine there must be other places in France I have to check out that would be better, but the food wasn't good, dude. Now it wasn't like we were going to Michelin level things anyway, but they weren't cheap dives.
Right.
This is all history professor level expense, right? So, but still,
Sure.
you know,
Maybe you're just used to spice living in Asia because the the white peoples, the European peoples, are stereotypically very non-spicy food.
yeah,
Well, compared to like the Asians, especially, they like their food with some pizzazz. Uh, so maybe that's just what it is. Maybe, like you said, your taste buds have just shifted. But I've
I
had
think they
French
have.
food, and I've never liked it. I don't understand the hullabaloo of it. I never have. I'd eat Italian all day, every day over it. I'd eat German food
Sure.
all day over it,
Well,
but
I want
not
to.
like the British and the French. They're not good. They're not great culinary people. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah,
Their
well,
food is just like, eh.
I'm unconvinced now as well. I do want to go to Italy, of course, and for just the architecture,
Yeah,
just to Rome. But and of course, I'll be able to try their food and see how it is in outside of America. But but then again, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff in America I probably wouldn't like anymore. I've never been a person who's crazy about salt, right?
no,
And therefore, living over here in Japan, they don't use a lot of salt anyway. And my wife reduces because I don't really like it much, and she doesn't care. So
yeah.
I'm not really much of a salt intaker. And I think that was the big shock. I Everything was salty, dude.
I
It was
wonder what
just
that's
overly
about.
salty. I don't
Wonder
know.
what that's about. Why they're
Yeah.
so salty over there. I've never been to France, so I have no idea. But I don't, like I said, I don't really have a huge desire to go. If I was gonna go do anything, it'd be a very quick tour just to see like some of the architecture in
Oh, yeah, there
Paris.
is some gorgeous architecture. That's true.
Yeah, but that would be about it, and then maybe go up to Brittany and just go into the villages and
Yeah.
things and check out
Well,
that area.
just watch where you walk, because there's lots of shit all over the place, literally on the streets. I'm then not joking, right? It's literally
Yeah,
everywhere. And you can't go anywhere without some Muslim side eyeing you in Paris
jeez.
anyway. I mean, they're all over the
What are
place,
they
dude, and
doing?
they
They've
just
they've
stare at
just
you.
cultural suicide. That's what that is.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
would
get it.
I didn't I figured I wouldn't really see as many. I figured they'd be in one area or something like that, but dude, they're all over,
Yeah,
right?
Paris is their city now, pretty much.
Yeah, I guess, and London too. And of course, I don't know how well I distinguish between what I would consider a Muslim and the Romani, because they're all over the place too, right?
Mhm.
But the good thing is, we didn't have any trouble with any kind of pickpocketing or anything like that. But then again, we didn't really go walk around that much. My schedule was pretty full, which is weird because I only actually got up and spoke 3 times, right,
Mhm.
throughout the entire week. But my schedule was pretty packed with just the other professors and people
Right.
like that.
What's
Uh,
interesting is when we were in Israel, we were in Jerusalem specifically. We went to the old quarter, the ancient part of the city that they still use. Um, and we were walking down the streets, and my father was a very large man, about your height, about 300 pounds at the time, big boy, full beard, dark hair like me. So he looked Arab. because we were out in the sun. And he got tan and everything, so he looked like an Arab. And what happened was a whole bunch of Arab guys came walking up to him, and they had this thing where basically what they would do is they'd swarm you, and then a whole bunch of them would just start reaching in your pockets and things. Well,
Oh
they
yeah.
didn't do it to my father because he's a big guy, but one of the guys behind us that was part of our group, that he got behind a little bit, which we were told don't do that, stay together. He was doing something, got behind a little bit. They walked past my father and went right to him and started like, doing that thing where they all reach into his pockets and try and get his stuff. Luckily,
Oh
he didn't
sure.
have anything on him, because we knew that was something like that could happen, so we didn't
Yeah.
bring, a bunch of stuff with us.
Don't
But
look
the
like a
reason why,
victim. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I was saying. My father looked like he could fit in. Plus, he was a big guy, and we were joking with him because he bought like a turban and stuff while we were over there, and he was wearing it, and we were joking with him. They're not going to let you come home. They're not going to believe your last name's Klostermeyer. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah. Right.
He
Right.
looked just like an Arab. It was crazy.
Yeah, well, some people tan well, some of us just burn. But there are a couple other things that were kind of interesting. Speaking of that, first of all, we have the image that the French were very unfriendly and rude. Yeah, they were actually very friendly. It was not
Hmm.
that at all. I was a bit surprised how friendly they were actually. Everywhere I went, I got a smile, which is nice. But I was a bit surprised how small the French are. They're very little
The
people.
little people.
They're little
Yeah.
teeny people. Where, however, in Denmark, I felt just right at home.
Oh yeah, with the giants.
It
Yeah.
was wonderful.
The, the
Uh,
largest group of people on Earth, besides like that one weird group in Africa that's really like 7 foot tall or something.
I was
If I remember
normal.
right. Well, there was a reason they terrified the entirety of the Atlantic coast for
The Danes, yeah,
the centuries they did.
yeah. But
Big.
it's weird for me because I don't know if I've ever felt normal in my life in that regard.
I bet
Uh,
you're about average height over there because they're
yeah,
tall.
no, no,
Even
I
the
was just
ladies are
normal.
tall. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, but they're still smaller. But yeah, no, it would just felt like it's where I should be in a
Does
way.
France have the same fat people problem that like England and America does? Was there fat people everywhere?
I didn't really pay attention, to be honest with you. I did. I suppose I saw fat people. I really wasn't looking for that. But
I
yeah,
think
I
you'd be
didn't really think
shocked if
about it.
you were walking down a street in America nowadays. It's shocking how fat America's gotten. Shocking.
Yeah, no, it seems so. It's hard, because I've spent my adult life outside of the states, right? I mean,
Right.
I left the states first time when I was in my early 20s, and of course I came back, and then I went out again, and I came back, and then I went out, and I didn't come back. I haven't been there in a while, and I know when I was a kid there were no fat kids at all. I mean, like I said, in my high school, I remember there was one girl who was a bit chunky,
Hmm.
but I wouldn't call her fat. She was just kind of husky. You know,
Right.
not fat, not this rolling, bucket of lard
Oh,
that
it's
we
bad.
see. Yeah, I
It's
don't know
bad.
why would you
My
let yourself get that bad. I mean, it's just a matter of interacting with life. You don't want to get that bad now. I mean, you want to be
no.
able to go out and enjoy yourself. And I've seen, huskier people be able to, move and do all kind of things just fine. So I mean, there is a certain amount of overweightness that's just fine, but holy shit, dude. I mean, it's just a matter of having a better life, I'd say.
Yeah.
I didn't really pay attention to that though. I do see we got a lot of people in here. We got Roger, we got Lady Hey, we got Dave in here. We got Joshua, of course. We have ourselves a Tank Ferret, who is always appreciated. Of course, why don't you jump in here and say hi, Tank? We got Adrian as well. Another person could jump in and say hello. Hello, all of you could. Keep that in mind. You're all welcome. But Yeah, I am back, and they're all having some of their opinions about Europe. I'm kind of wondering how many of you actually have traveled to Europe. Why not? This is something about Americans, which I get. I mean, our country is so large, there's so much to see. You don't really need to go outside the country, to be fair.
Yeah.
But if you have the opportunity, I mean, well, go check stuff out, especially Europe. Europe is so easy to move around. because it's all with the EU, right? It's all interconnected. It's easy to travel here to there. It is not much hassle. Like, coming into Paris, I had to go through customs and stuff, which, is normal. But going over to Copenhagen, nothing. Just got
Right.
on,
Just drive on over.
just got on a train, and that was a nice little ride too. That was
Yep.
actually quite a nice train. But yeah, no, it's very easy to travel. There's a lot of nice stuff to see. You got to watch out a little bit because they do have an immigrant problem. That's clear. It wasn't anywhere near as bad in Copenhagen, by the way.
That's good.
Yeah, but France is littered with. I don't. If France is, I wouldn't. If I was a person who didn't understand anything about history or modern civics, and I just kind of went to Paris, I would figure it was a like New York, a cosmopolitan place that I wouldn't be able to tell you what race was in charge or what race was the local. You know,
Sure.
it's so mixed. There's so many people. But then again, the French are kind of like that anyway, aren't they? But yeah, I wasn't impressed by the food. The bread was great, but then again, Europeans do that well. And the people were very friendly, though. I was surprised. I figured they were going to be rude. My wife had been there before, and they were quite rude to her. But they hate Asians. In general, they're very racist toward Asian. Europeans don't like Asians. But
Really? I didn't
yeah.
know that.
Oh yeah, no, Europeans are quite racist toward Asians. I don't
That's
know
odd.
why. It is weird. It's just like, why are the Asians racist against blacks? I don't get it.
I like them.
They don't. Well,
Don't
they
like
don't
'em.
have much experience with them.
They don't like the cut of their jib,
They
Chester.
do
That's all
not.
it is.
Yeah, they do not. But the funny thing is, in Asia, even though Europeans are not really, very pro-Asian, being a white person over in Asia is kind of a, how they use the word reverse racism when they're idiots and don't really know what that means.
Yep.
Reverse racism would mean advantage because of your race, right? And
Right.
that actually is true for white people in Asia, especially
Yep.
men. You
Yeah, in
get,
China, especially in China, you can literally just
oh
get a
my God.
job
Oh
being a
yeah,
white
yeah,
person.
yeah.
Crazy.
No, the rich people just pull you over their tables because they want to have their white monkey. That's what
Yep.
they want. Yeah.
Hey,
So,
I'll be a white monkey for some Chinese billionaire. Sure, why? Hey, all right, bud. What do you want me to do? How much are you gonna give me? I'm all right with it.
mm,
I'm all right with it simply because I find it a little bit flattering that they like white people that much. I think that's hilarious. That they've
yeah,
that they've put them on such a pedestal they'll literally pay you just to sit and talk with them.
yeah. No, it
It's
is interesting. Yeah. Hey, Elrod, what's up? And yeah, I don't know. This whole outrageous obesity, Elrod, that's going on in many places, not just America. It's kind of beyond the pale. I mean, you don't have to be this perfect image of fitness. I mean, it's not necessary at all. You
no.
could be a little skinny or a little overweight. It's fine. Actually, being a little overweight is probably more healthy for you. But I don't understand this. But and all I have is this distant view, as I'm not there, right?
Hmm.
But I see so many things on the YouTube I watch, and they're just everybody's fat. I mean,
Big
really,
and fat.
really, really fat. I mean, and it's just I would wish a better life for you. You know what I mean?
Well, I know when I was big, a year and a half ago when I was real big, I was miserable. Like I just don't understand how somebody bigger than me, because I'm average height, right? I'm 5'9", 5'10". That's normal height. That's average height, especially in America.
Sure.
And if I'm over 300 pounds and that miserable, I can't even imagine what these 400 and 500 pounders are feeling. Like that, your body just hurts.
Yeah, it
Everything would
must
hurt.
be
All like the way I'm
miserable.
sitting right now, I
Yeah.
couldn't sit this. I literally could not sit this way. And all I'm doing is sit back in this chair with it's a recliner, sitting back in it with my feet on the recliner thing in like a butterfly position. But when I was real heavy, it would hurt my knees to sit like this.
Yeah.
Um, it's I just can't even imagine how miserable it is, and it's a self-inflicted wound is the worst part because it's really not that hard. I know everybody thinks it's this super hard thing.
Yeah.
It's really not. It's
Yeah.
really not that hard to get the weight off. I promise you. You just got to keep doing it. It's just a everyday thing. That's all it is.
Right. And keep in mind, I'm not coming from some specific Adonis point of view either. I'm
Yep.
I'm what, 215 pounds? something like
Yep.
that. 106 kilos. So what is that? 215, 216, something like that. So, I could use to lose 15 pounds,
Sure.
20 pounds maybe. But, so it's not like I'm thin. But, and that's not what I'm talking about. But I didn't notice anything like that in Europe though. When I was in
Well,
Paris, I didn't see anything that was like, damn, I didn't see that.
right.
I would
Well,
have remembered
Britain's the
that.
one that's real bad with it, as far as from what I understand. It's almost as bad as it is in America and Britain.
Yeah.
Um, I think one thing that causes that, where people have this extreme view, where they either are these large people are like, well, I'm never going to be super duper skinny, and it's like, okay, then don't be. No one's saying you have to be. It's because we have this industry over here, this fitness industry that uses a bunch of people who probably never had weight problems, at least not in the
Hmm.
upper echelon of it.
Sure.
And these people have great bodies, and they work really hard and keep themselves that way. Well, the reality
Good
is,
on them.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
yeah, the reality is, unfortunately, most people, that's just not going to happen. You're going to work yourself into an early grave if you try and chase that, especially if you're older. Your body's just never
Yeah.
going to be able to become that, and there's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. That's
Well,
just the
yeah, that
reality of
that
it.
is
You can
that is
still get a
true.
lot
Yeah.
healthier and stronger. You'll just never look like an Olympian, Mr. Olympia or something. You're just not that guy. You don't
Well,
have the
it's
genetics
okay.
for it.
You don't have to.
Yeah. No.
No, and I think a lot of it has to do with the corn syrup and all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. And it's just if you ate more whole foods, I mean,
Yep.
literally, you just kind of prepared it yourself, you'd be way better off, dude. I mean, there's a reason why my grandparents' generation, even my father's generation, where there wasn't a fat person to be seen.
Right.
And they ate like mad, dude. They ate a
Yep.
lot more than we do in some ways. But of course, one, they are more active than a lot of people these days. But because they were eating whole foods, they weren't eating a lot of these processed things.
Right.
And that's really what's killing everybody.
Well,
Really
and the
when it comes down
crazy
to it.
thing is, the Whole Foods aren't even hard to come by. Like, okay, say you don't want to prepare vegetables yourself. You don't have to anymore. You can go to the frozen section, and they have steam bag of vegetables where you literally just pop it open, put it in the microwave for a minute or two, and it cooks them. Boom, and they're not processed. They're just vegetables. They're just fresh steamed vegetables. It's so
Microwaves.
simple. Well, you don't have to use them. I'm just saying that's real quick and easy. It's so simple comparatively than what a lot of people think. Because when you say, "Oh, just eat whole foods," a lot of people get this image of you got to shuck all your corn, which I like shucking. You got to shuck all your corn, and you got to trim your carrots,
Well,
and you got to do all the
I
manual
have a
work.
wife
No,
for that.
you don't have to do all that anymore. Is my point. You go to the supermarket and get all of it cut fresh. It's sitting right there, ready to go, packaged up for you, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
it's so much easier than it used to be, because I remember trying to lose weight about 15 years ago. Even 15 years ago, it was really hard to find like sugar-free snacks and stuff like that. Now it's everything. No matter what it is, you can find a sugar-free variety of it. Guaranteed
mhm.
in the supermarket right now, you'll find it. And it makes it a lot easier, or no sugar added or whatever. Makes it a lot easier to do. You just got to do a little investigation, count the calories a little bit. It's not hard. I'm not like some super fitness guy, and I lost 84 pounds so far.
Yeah, good on
So
you, dude. And you're right in a
not
lot.
hard.
That's true. But no, no. In a way, I kind of disagree. I get your point, and it's valid. But I think if you're going out and you're getting the whole foods and you're doing all the prep yourself, you're putting a
Mhm.
more invested time in doing it, and that time will make you want to make your food taste better and enjoy it better. Therefore, you're
Yes,
learning. But at the same
I
time,
agree with you.
it's not convenient, therefore you don't
Correct.
eat as much. But whatever. We do fall into this conversation a lot. It's
We
interesting.
do. We do.
But
It's good.
Yeah, well, I
Good.
think so because I
It's
want
something
everyone to
that
be
needs to
healthy.
happen. Yeah, it needs to happen more in circles of men, especially. Is we need to care about each other's health more.
We do.
And one of the
That's fair.
easiest things we can do is just encourage each other to eat better. That's it. You
Yeah.
don't got to eat perfectly. You can still have your ice cream every now and again. You can still have your whatever every now and again. but make sure it's just every now and again and not every night,
I
and
eat
I think you'll do a lot better.
right. I eat Kit Kats once a week.
Oh, I love Kit Kats, bro. Kit
Yeah.
Kat's my jam.
What I
That's
really want is a
mm.
whatchamacallit, but I can't get
Those are hard
those.
to find
And
now. Yeah,
Eric,
those are harder to
Eric is a bastard.
Oh, what did Eric do?
He
Eric, what have you done?
he ate a whatchamacallit on camera in front of me.
Yep,
Bastard.
yeah,
But
that'll
nothing but
do it.
love, nothing but love. But yeah, no, it's just you should be a little more healthy. You don't have to be crazy in shape; it's not important at all. But a little bit more healthy, you move around, you'll have more energy, you'll feel better.
Yeah,
Especially as you're getting older. Being a 50
yes,
year old myself, which isn't really that old, but you need to keep activity up and energy going just to keep your from being lethargic and keep your T count up, dude. You don't want to become this. I don't know what you would call it. This nothing soup of a human, right? As a man, you need to keep that energy up. You need to do visceral things. You need to eat some meat and you get those muscles burning a little bit, just to keep
yep,
your testosterone up, dude. Your hormones start becoming imbalanced. Remember, as a man, as you get older, your testosterone reduces and your estrogen increases. So
yes.
you want to fight that a little bit. You can do it medically, but you can also do it quite easily just by eating more healthily and just doing a little activity.
Yep. A good example of that is a guy like Tom Cruise. He's 60 years old,
Oh my God,
still hyper active. He still climbs mountains without any, free climbs mountains and stuff. At 60, and he looks
that's
great.
he
He's in great
does.
shape.
Speaking of that, we should probably get into our
Let's
conversations
do it.
today. But where is it? Yeah, let's go here. No, let's do here. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did want to talk about a few things. Whilst I was gone, everybody, I did see a few movies, and I thought we'd talk a little bit about that since you brought up Tom Cruise. Um,
That's
uh,
good.
the first one I saw here was this one. Have you seen this yet?
I've never even heard of it.
Day Shift. Now, it's got Jamie Foxx, who's not my favorite human, but whatever. It's a movie. And it's got James Franco's brother Robert or Dave, who I think his younger brother here you see on the right hand side of the screen. I think he's a way better actor than his older brother,
Mhm.
James, in my opinion. You got Snoop Dogg. It's always a good day, right?
That is a good
Yeah,
thing.
it is a
Yeah.
good day. And this is the weirdest damn thing, though, dude, because the special effects are freaking AAA, dude. They're excellent, right?
Hmm.
The action scenes are really, really good. I mean, from the fight scenes to the car chases, it's really, really good. The acting's fine. There's nothing that stood out as being particularly bad. There wasn't anything particularly woke or stupid about it at all. It was a pretty normal flick, but it was boring.
Hmm.
And my wife and I couldn't figure it out because it didn't make any sense. It was like that was a badass fight scene. That was a badass car chase. Why the hell is this feel so slow and boring? And we just kind of looked at each other and we figured it's got to be the pacing. I guess the pacing
Hmm.
is just way off in this movie, which is unfortunate because there's so many aspects of it that are great, fun little popcorn movie, dude. But it's just I don't know, dude. Is this a sequel to Night Shift? Well, I don't know, Adrian. I know there's a thing called Night Shift and Day Shift. Or I think it's Russian or Ukrainian movie from way back that I love. But that's a bit of a cult classic for me. That's not related to that clearly. I don't know, Adrian. But I can't recommend it though. It's weird. I don't know. I wish someone else had seen it and could give their opinion, but it just it's flat, badly flat.
Just
And
kind of like a piece of toast without any butter or jam on it. Is what you're
yeah,
telling me. It's
dude,
not the worst thing in the world, but you're just like, this
it's
could
a
be
little
better.
the crust is kind of too hard that you really don't want to eat it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think it's a shame though because this could have been a great movie, but it's all the components are there. But it just I don't know. I think it's they tried to be comedic, but it's not really funny.
Mm.
And they tried to make it a little bit wholesome with little bit of the family drama, but it's either embrace that or don't. I don't know, dude. I think it's a shame though, because this could have been badass, but it is not. So there's Day Shift. I wouldn't recommend this. The second one here, um, The Gray Man. Now, for some reason, all the damn advertisement, if you even look at this right here, all the advertisement was about Chris Evans, Chris Evans, Chris Evans, right? And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, because that insufferable hack. But I mean, he did a good job as Captain America. Let's be fair. He's just such an annoying person. But this is not a Chris Evans movie at all. What the hell were they marketing? This is a what's his name here? Gyllenhaal. This is a Gyllenhaal movie.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal. This is not a Chris Evans movie at all. Spoilers, he's the bad guy. Jake Gyllenhaal is the, I don't know, air quote, good guy. And the Indian fella is hardly in the movie. I don't know why he's on the promotional material. But this is a Jake Gyllenhaal movie. Why in the hell would you not advertise this as Jake Gyllenhaal? He's way bigger actor and better actor than Chris Evans. I don't get it, dude. I'm shocked
I don't
by it.
know.
However,
I don't know.
it wasn't bad at all. It was pretty good, dude. Jake Gyllenhaal as an action star, I kind of turned my head sideways and looked at the TV because I was
Mhm.
expecting this to be a Chris Evans, born, James Bourne type of thing. It's not what it is. It's all about Jake Gyllenhaal, and wow, dude, he got himself in mad shape, dude. Just claps for you, Mr. Gyllenhaal. Have you seen this yet?
I have not. I don't have Netflix anymore, so I have not.
Oh well, you don't need Netflix anyway. I would absolutely suggest this movie. It's a good, fun little spy thriller. Is it the greatest movie of all time? No, but it's freaking awesome. It's great fun, good action, solid pacing all the way through. It's a good movie. It's a really good movie, and it is not a Chris Evans movie at all. It's a Jake Gyllenhaal movie,
Good.
and he does a great job. Of course, Jake, he's a solid actor, right?
Yeah, he is. No, he's one of the better actors. He's one of those under the radar kind of guys who people know of him, but he's not like a big blockbuster type of guy. But he always seems to give really good performances.
Oh, did I get? Is it not Gyllenhaal? It's Ryan Gosling. Are you sure?
As I was wondering, I'm like, I see Ryan Gosling.
Oh well, there's what's the difference? Uh,
Well,
uh,
one's blonde and one's not.
well, whatever. This guy, they're about the same to me. It's not Gyllenhaal, it's Gosling, huh? But it's
Yeah,
that dude. He's the star of the movie, and he does a great job.
he
The whole
always does
movie is
too.
centered around him. So I'm sorry, I got the name wrong.
The
But
only movie I've seen of Ryan Gosling's that I absolutely despised was that musical him and that Emma Stone chick put out a few.
oh,
I
I
think it was
didn't
called
see
La
it.
La
Yeah,
Land.
yeah.
Don't, don't do it. It's horrible. The fact that people prop that up as it's a modern classic musical is. I don't even like musicals, but to call it equivalent to like the golden age of musicals was just. I almost threw up in my mouth when I watched it. I turned it
I
off.
don't know. I
My
didn't
wife and I
see
watched
it.
like the
Yeah.
first half hour. We shut it off. It was so bad.
Yeah, my wife hates musicals, so we don't watch them here.
Okay.
Fair enough. But because she doesn't understand it, she doesn't get it,
I
and
don't either, to be honest with you. Like, what's the appeal here? But
yeah,
American women especially love them. I can't get enough.
yeah. No, thank you, Elrod, and at least Elrod is standing up for me. All the rest of you are just laughing at me. But whatever. Gosling, not Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
Real fun, dude. Go check this out. However, the third movie I saw is How You Do That Shit, by the way. Yeah, fucking goddamn Tom
Yeah, I told
Cruise.
you. I told you. It's a
Damn,
good one.
dude.
It's a good one.
Dude, just putting Hollywood in its place.
Yes.
$1.5 billion on
Still
a
in theaters.
movie with no special effects.
That's right.
And that's just a real true life type of story or type of scenario. And just slapping. slapping stuff like Star Wars and Disney's Marvel stuff and DC's just slapping it, dude. Holy shit. How long has it been since you've seen an actually really good movie? Um, uh,
Just a movie too. Like there's no agenda, it's not tied into anything else besides its prequel, but it's not tied into
it's
anything
beautifully
else. It's
tied in
just a
though.
movie.
It's perfectly
Yeah,
tied in.
yeah, yeah. To its
Um,
own world is what I'm saying though. It's the sequel to the original, and that's pretty much that's it, right? There's
yeah,
not some grand plan. It's just you could have made this movie without the first one, and it would have still been really good. The first one's influence just adds a lot to
yeah.
it, obviously, but it's just I Booster and I watched it the other night because he hadn't seen it yet either,
Mhm,
and he was blown away. He couldn't
mm.
believe it. He was like, "Wow, there was just nothing wrong with that movie. Like it's
Well,
just from beginning to end solid."
I
I was
didn't
like, "Yeah,
care for
it's solid."
them. I didn't care for them knocking on Pete so hard in the beginning. I was
They did a
starting to
bit.
get irritated with it, but then a movie kicked in. But
Yeah.
that would be my only complaint. It's not a filmmaking thing; it's just a narrative choice. But yeah, this movie kicked absolute ass. And boy, talk about the genius choice to have no music in those fighter pilot scenes.
Yep.
Just let the sound of the jet. Oh, baby. It reminded me of Bullet, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
really good Steve McQueen movie where they didn't have any music. They just let the roar of that freaking engine come through. It was a genius choice because a lot of movie makers in those action scenes would have put music in it, right?
Right.
I mean, Star Wars, for instance, would definitely do it, right? But they didn't.
Yeah.
They pull back. They had a little bit of restraint. And oh, what a magnificent that first time where he's going and the tension they built up in those things. Practical use, actually in the jets, by the way.
Yep.
Actually in the jets. Of course, they're using Navy airplanes here, so which of course is appropriate for Top Gun. But
Mm.
and those are always two seaters anyway. So when you're seeing them, they're in the back seat. There's a real pilot in front of them, but it worked really well. And but that first scene where they're coming in and they having the actual attack coming on and they start popping those deterrents, oh, the
Yep.
sound, dude, the sound.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
This is the
no,
type of movie where they could have killed it in the editing room. They could have killed it in the
oh
music and
yeah,
sound room,
yeah, they could have.
and they just got it all right. The director of it, I think his name's Kaczynski or something like that. He just understood exactly what Tom Cruise wanted to make because this was
Mhm.
Tom's baby. He wanted to make it for a very long time, and he kept saying he just couldn't get it to happen for different reasons.
Well, Tom
And
threw
I
the
think part of
gauntlet
it,
down, is what he did.
yeah, because he wanted it to be like the other one. He wanted it to feel like the original, especially with the practical effects and everything. He said he doesn't want to do it without that. So then, when they finally got their casts to be the pilots, Tom Cruise created and and put forward a boot camp, 3-month boot camp for all of them to basically learn how to be pilots. Now they didn't do a lot of the flying themselves, obviously, in the actual planes, but they were up there. They were actually in the planes filming that stuff, and so they had to know what it was like to feel the G's and everything, and what it feels like when the plane does a hard yank to one way or the other, stuff like
Mhm.
that. And he put them through a 3-month boot camp because he's already done it and he flies himself. Like he's got his own pilot. Like Tom Cruise is crazy. He does everything.
Yeah.
Uh, and so but he went through it a little bit too. Like he was there with them. And he put them through it, and they were all very grateful they did after once they started filming because apparently the filming schedule was just torture because they couldn't get direction from the ground really while they were up in the air. So they would have to. The director would say action. They'd take off, fly off however far up they had to do it, do the stuff that they're doing. So they do their whole scene. The actor would, and then they'd have to come back down to see how it worked, see if it worked to get more direction.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's
Yeah, no, it is.
insane.
And there were a couple, to be fair. They're like less than a second, but there are a couple moments you could see that the actors are not actually comfortable inside of the airplane. But that's okay. That's not a problem. It adds to it. But yeah, no, this was a stellar movie making.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the whole movie. Like, there's really no complaint. And the action scenes in the jets was really well done. Really well
Yes.
done. I mean, it's one of those kind of situations in a movie that silences you, right? Like,
And in fair that's funny you say that because that's exactly what happened with Booster. Because at first he was kinda, because it's a Tom Cruise '80s, and it has a lot of that too, right? It's a little goofy at the start, but once the movie kicks in, it gets into the dramatic stuff, and it gets into the more serious tone. It doesn't slip. It knows right where its tone is. It doesn't go too serious, but it's still pretty serious. I mean, these guys are going into a life or death situation,
oh
and
yeah.
it treats it that way. Pays respect to Val Kilmer's character and to the movie
Oh, that
before.
was beautiful scene. Yeah, really well done.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Smart
Yeah.
way to do it. Yeah.
It did exactly what you said. It Booster eventually, because I had already seen it a couple times, but Booster basically shut up, right? Because he was it had him. It pulled him in.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you want. That's what we've all been complaining about. Movies don't pull us in anymore. We don't get lost in them. In this one, you can get lost in very easily,
Oh yeah.
because it's competently made. There's no major plot holes from beginning to end. The story's very simple. It's not super complex. It's not trying to be some Shakespearean masterpiece. It knows what it is, and it tells it very well. And it's one of Tom's best performances in years, honestly.
Oh no,
Like,
he kills it.
the scene with him and Iceman is,
Beautiful.
holy crap,
It's
dude.
really good.
That's
Made my wife
Oh, that's
cry.
some of his best movies.
Tear her up.
It's super he cries. He actually got time to cry for real in a movie. It's really good. Really good. And you get it too, right? Especially if you're a fan of the Top Gun franchise, you're gonna be a little older.
Or
So
just
you
the
kinda get
80s
what they're
Rat Pack. Yeah.
Yeah, you get what they're talking about in that scene, what he's telling him.
Yeah.
And the fact that I think Tom Cruise and the character, that was probably a very honest take for Tom, right? He doesn't know how to let go. Spoilers is basically the premise of that scene, but it's just so well done. It's so well told. It's what we've been bitching about on here for 4 years now, that they disrespect everything in Hollywood. They don't
Oh,
have
they
any
do.
respect for the heroes. And this movie is all about respecting the past and bringing forth the current in the proper way. Like, they could make more movies if they wanted to. I don't know if they're going to, but they could, especially with the cast they built. Those guys were all great. Every one of them did a good job. I love the guy who played Hangman, Glenn Powell. I
Oh no.
think he
Perfect
needs to be
asshole.
in more stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's such a great little asshole. I love it. And Miles Teller. I mean, I didn't know he was that big. He's a big dude.
Well,
I
Tom
think they should
Tom
let him be.
Tom is a midget. Let's be fair.
Well, yeah, I think they should let him be Mr. Fantastic again. I know he wasn't that crappy movie, but he just. I think he's got a good look for it. I think he's a good
Yeah,
actor.
he
I
did
think
a
he can
good
pull
job
it
as
off.
Rooster. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, overall across the board, very, very solid. Everyone there had a purpose. They weren't there for anything other than being what they were supposed to be,
Yes.
which is how you do that, right? And just it doesn't matter at all in this movie, but there is a girl there.
No,
But
not a
that's
girl.
well, I'm just saying, but that's how you do it. It
Yeah.
didn't matter. She was just one of the elite pilots. That's it, right?
Yeah.
But that's how you do that. You don't have to keep
Yeah.
yelling at us how awesome women are and how horrible men are. I mean that which
Right.
they do because they think that's the only way to sell it. No, and I honestly I don't even want to mention it because it doesn't matter at all.
Not at all. Not at
She's
all. She
just
doesn't
one of
make a
the
deal about
characters.
it.
No, no
Yeah,
one
she
does
doesn't
because
care
it's
about it. She's just a badass pilot like the rest of them, and that's it.
and
That's
she
the end of the
sold it
story.
just like the rest of
Yeah.
them did.
And she earns it. They don't try to marry. She's not better than all the boys. No, Maverick's the best, as he should be, because he's the veteran and he's the one who's teaching them and all this stuff.
Yeah,
And everybody has to try to live up to him, and that makes perfect sense. That's exactly the story they should be telling. If you're going to bring in a character from 30 years ago that people is beloved, Top Gun is a beloved movie. Uh, you don't shit on him. You don't piss in his mouth like they did Luke Skywalker.
yeah, that
Literally,
was
with a tit
just
out of a tit milk.
they
What the
did,
hell?
yeah. And Eric, you're right that they did bring the Tomcat in, and it was badass, dude. It was badass.
Yeah.
I'm assuming I'm the last person on Earth that's seen this movie, so I don't really care about spoilers. But I have to tell you, dude, there were a lot of really good scenes in this. But the scene where Jenny tells him you know, you'll figure it out, meaning go get it
Yep.
done, just quit whining, right? Is what she's basically saying to him. And he just takes the plane. It just shows that the route can be done. And of course, he does it way faster than anybody else could. But that
Right.
whole damn scene, the tension in that scene was perfect, dude. It was perfect. And because, Tom, he had to earn it, which is a
Yeah.
little different than his character in the Mission Impossible series. He is just badass and no one questions it. But in this, they're portraying a character that is constantly having to earn it because he
Yes.
bucks stupidity and he doesn't conform. He is a maverick,
Hence the name.
hence
Yes.
the name. But he's constantly having to re-earn it, and boy, does he earn it.
Yes.
It's freaking
He really
beautiful, dude.
does.
Yeah.
It's one of these movies. One of the bigger problems we also have in modern cinema is they'll do things where they ask a question and then they never answer it, or they'll do things just conveniently happen because the script needs them to. It happens all the time in Marvel movies, especially.
Sorry, Adrian.
This movie doesn't do that at all. There's things that are a little coincidental, sure, but by and large, if it presents you with a question, it answers it by the end of this movie.
Yeah,
100%.
it,
All
it
of the
does.
plot threads are resolved. And
Yeah, yeah,
that is what makes it so great. That's what
yeah.
makes it so competent. And we
And
don't get a lot of that anymore.
it's interesting. Of course, I know why they went with the F-18. There was very logistical reasons why they had to choose that airplane over some of our more badass aircraft that we have, like the F-35, which they had in the movie. And another thing I want to make a little bit of a conspiracy note before I jump onto another point. Did we see, as far as I know, the first official public display of the aurora in this movie, dude? We know.
That's funny because that's what I was talking about it too. I'm like, there have been rumors for 2 decades at
Well,
least
we know
that
it's
America
real. We
has.
know. We know
Yeah,
it
of
is.
course it is.
It's one
That
of those
America
American
has
secrets, right?
the Mach 10 jet. And I know it's real because when I was in high school, so this is early 2000s, there was a Popular Mechanics article talking about Boeing was working on a Mach 10 engine for commuter travel. And they
Yeah.
said if they can figure it out and get it so it doesn't, the G's aren't insane, you'll be able to go from Tokyo to New York City in 2 hours. And most of that will be landing and taking off because it goes so fast.
Right. Well,
So
yeah.
I think it's kind of one of those things because obviously to make this movie they had to work very closely with the U.S. government. So I wouldn't be very surprised if that wasn't intentional because
I
that beginning
felt
bit,
so. I felt that they
yes,
were basically giving us a wink. Yeah, yeah. We all know the aurora's real. Here it is. Because
yeah,
that was a real freaking jet, dude. Now, how fast it
yes,
was going, oh, that's just, Hollywood magic. But that was a real jet getting into the air there. And it looks like the other pictures of the aurora we've seen.
yep,
I
very
just
similar,
think that they snuck that in because this movie was made in conjunction with the Navy and the Air Force, the
yes,
American government. It was. And just like the first one, I really think it was the Aurora, dude. And understand that this is one of those open secrets in America.
yes,
There's another example of the Aurora. There was an incident. I would call it. I don't know if we call it an incident, but there was an incident, and I think it was at the Las Vegas Airport air traffic control. And one of the things pilots do a lot is they'll call in for airspeed checks.
mhm,
Of course, there's a lot of communication going on with pilots as they're moving through the air, whether it be private or commercial. But
sure,
it's kind of more of a showing off, because the air traffic controller has to call back airspeed, right? And it's like,
right,
yeah, I'm doing 150. Or I'm doing
mhm,
210 knots or whatever. They call them back, and that particular day there was a lot of people competing with each other for how fast they were going, and there was a lot of chatter on the air traffic controller was giving a lot of speeds back. And then one came through some tail name speed check, please, Las Vegas speed check, please. It was like Mach 12.
right.
And it was
Yeah, I wouldn't
basically
doubt it.
it was a big dick move, like fuck off. You ain't
Yeah,
nothing. It was one of those kind of things. And that is real. That actually did happen. So I think they're way past Mach 10, to be honest with you. But
Probably if they're putting it in movies now, probably because
I'm
if you
telling you, I
remember,
think that's the Aurora, dude. I really do.
for years they denied, decades they denied the stealth bomber existed. It because we had it since at least the '60s, and they denied it until I think like the early seven or late '70s, early '80s, when they finally admitted it. So I
Oh yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if we have it.
Well, I mean, no, and a lot of the stuff we look at now, like Stealth Fighter and those kind of things, they're old, dude. Those are from
Yes.
long time ago.
Yes.
The Aurora isn't new either. It's been around 20 plus years. It's just one of those unofficially announced. But I thought that was a little interesting, wink, wink. In it. But back to the Tomcat, because a lot of there's plenty of good things to talk about this movie, but the actual in plane action is freaking incredible, right?
Right.
When he got in that freaking Tomcat, and of course, going back to the Top Gun, and they set it up as a good reason. They put the information in the movie earlier, and they paid it off as you do when you're making movies.
Yep.
Him getting in that Tomcat and the whole thing of them getting that in the air and flying it and all the stuff he was. Oh, dude, it's just beautiful. It's showing the absolute pinnacle of a badass pilot and what he can do. And then in the end, of course, well, I won't give that spoiler because Adrian hadn't seen it, but it is really well done. And another thing with that run where he goes and shows that it is possible to make the run. They had taken the Hangman character, which you said is what's the character's actor's name?
Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell. Perfect asshole. And you might think
Yeah.
early on they're overplaying the asshole. Then again, Top Gun, the original movie, Val Kilmer was an absolute dick. Which they did overplay it. But however, when it pays off so well in that scene, when you see the point of pride on Hangman's face and respect, he
Hmm.
respects the hell out of Maverick, and that's a guy that respects no one but himself, right?
Yeah.
Because in the movie they call him Hangman because he leaves everyone hanging. He's not a team player, right?
Right. He's
Yeah,
he's such an arrogant prick. He only cares about himself. Uh, and he's so well done, like you said. Glenn does such a good job, and he's got the perfect face for it. You believe he's really that guy.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh, he just nails it.
yeah.
But then again, he's also, you know, kind of a good dude in other ways, and that's something that we don't get a lot of. I hate this word because of the way the left's abused it. But we don't get a lot of nuance in characters like that anymore. Usually, you get a character like that in one of these modern movies, and they're just a dick because, and
Yeah,
they
but
stay that way, and there's no positive attributes to them or whatever. It's just they're just a
poor
dick because
poor writing.
it,
Yeah,
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 that's the thing is this was very well written.
it
I don't care
was.
what anybody says. You don't have to like Tom Cruise. I know Grimlock hates the guy. He can't stand him. He doesn't know why. He'll even tell you, "I have no idea why. I just
Yeah,
don't
that's
like him."
fine. I understand that.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
But you cannot knock the man's ability to make a movie.
Oh no, no, he
He
makes
knows
badass
what
movies.
he's
Yeah,
doing, and
and
he knows how to do it, and he does
and
it very well.
and they handled the nostalgia in a non cheesy way. And they did it at a distance. Good example in the first movie, of course, they're all singing that I can't remember the guy's name, but the Great Balls of Fire song, right in
Yep.
the bar, right? And they of course did it again. You're like, oh, cheesy, wink, wink. Don't you remember? Don't you remember? Type of member berries. But no,
Yeah.
this movie they did it at a distance,
Yes.
and they did it in a very different emotional scene where it was an introspective scene for Tom Cruise's character, Pete Mitchell, right? That mean that level of proper writing, right? You're given the
Yes.
nostalgia, but you're doing it in a better, in the right way. You're not just member burying it, and that's you don't have to, but they went that step, right?
Right.
This is one of the best movies of the 21st century.
Yeah, so far, yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were able to work in Val Kilmer's actual legitimate illness because he does have
Oh,
trouble
beautifully.
talking now,
Yeah, yeah.
and they made it
Sad.
work beautifully, and it made that scene even more powerful. Like,
Yeah.
man, I really want this guy to get more. I don't know what else he's done. I haven't looked up his filmography or whatever.
Val?
But no, 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 not Val, the director,
Oh,
and the writer, and pretty much this whole team. Can we just have this same team make all legacy franchise movies going forward, please? Because they understand the importance of not crapping all over what came before just 'cause.
mhm.
So can we please just have that forever going forward? Just they get them all. This
Mhm.
team gets them all. You're gonna make a new Terminator, okay, give it to them. You're gonna make a new whatever, give it to them. I think we're all so sick. I think our biggest complaint that we have around here is when they take something from the past that we all love and they shit all over it. They turn the main hero into some kind of something he's not. And this doesn't if anything, they evolved his character in the right way
Mhm.
throughout this movie.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think it's just you just don't see it like you should in Hollywood with these with some of these actors like a Tom Cruise who've been around a long time, who have characters that have been around a long time, and it's so refreshing because like you said, there's very little if anything to complain about. So the only
No.
thing I would complain about is some of the secondary cast, some of their performances weren't near Tom's, but Tom is
Yeah.
a 40-year veteran.
It
So
was
it's like,
fine though. It was no
yeah.
problem. There's nothing to complain about it. It's funny. I watched this movie in a hotel well, not Paris, but just outside Paris. But in the
Mhm.
hotel, and had a nice balcony overlooking this pond. It was quite beautiful little place actually. But I had my laptop and I had wires into the TV, and I completely hijacked the hotel's TV, and and because it was biggest TV I've ever seen in a hotel room in my life. I've never seen them. That was like a 65 inch, one of those. What's the not the 4K, the new stuff that everyone's going on about. Um,
um, oh, I can't
I
remember
can't,
what
well,
it's
I
called.
didn't get one. Well, I do have one, but it's a little bit older one. But I didn't get it because I do this show and I use the TV screen for things, and those they will burn in. So you have to be very
Mhm.
careful with them. But it was that, and it was like 65 inch TV. And like I
Ooh.
said, I hijacked it and got it off the site where I get stuff because it had only been a cam for a long time because this stayed in the movie theater. That's why I haven't seen it because it stayed in the movie theater because they were making money. They made $1.5 billion, and it's going
Yep.
to make more on Blu-rays and stuff like that. This movie's
And it
got
didn't
legs,
I don't
baby.
think it ever even went to China either, because China wanted
No,
him to take the Taiwan
yeah, well,
flag off his
fuck
jacket, and
China. We
Tom
don't need
Cruise told
China.
him to kick rocks. I'm not
Let
doing that.
let me tell you a little bit about China. Would you like to have a little bit insight when it comes to movies in
I would.
China? Would you like to?
I
Okay.
would. Yeah.
In China, the Chinese lie about everything. And
No.
that they do. And I'm not even talking about the CCP. I'm just talking about the Chinese. And
Yeah,
you have to understand that from their point of view, if you get suckered, that means you're a sucker. That's how
that's
they
right.
take it. There's no dishonor in lying. You should be smart and capable and clever enough not to be lied to. That's culturally the Chinese, right? But of course, the CCP takes this to epic heroic levels. What they'll do is one thing you probably don't understand, but on their TV over there, every day there is some manner of war drama on the TV every day. And it's talking about back when, if you remember, America went in and we kicked the Japanese ass and put them in their place, and we freed China, right?
Yep.
America did that. That was America, right? But of course, it wasn't. It was Mao Zedong who didn't fight in any in one of those battles against the Japanese. But whatever. Now the actual history is that Mao Zedong and his people, the Revolutionary Army, the PLA, are the ones who pushed out the Japanese, and all these little dramas go on every day. They're horrible productions, but it's just about these farmers fighting back and kicking the Japanese ass. There's like dozens and dozens of them. They're on the TV constantly. It's pure pop propaganda. And they also make these big old movies that they drop in the movie theaters for you to go see. The problem is the local people in China aren't interested at all. If they like it, they can watch it on TV. Why did they need to see it in the movie theater anyway? But this is what the
Right.
Chinese do, because one of the things people don't really understand about Marxism is the fact that it's the quota system that really, yeah, there's many problems with it, but the quota system is a big problem. Like you have that famous picture of that lady that came out, what? I don't know, a few months ago. And it's got this old lady, and she's a tester, and she's got all the gear on, and she's doing a COVID test. But Clearly, she had not got enough of her quota done for the day. Not enough people showed up. She didn't get it done. So what is she doing? She's sitting there putting the swab in her own mouth, testing one after the other so she can get to her quota, right? Because everything
Hmm.
is quota based. And if you don't make your quota, you're in big, big trouble, right? Some people actually get thrown in jail for not meeting quotas. That's how serious it is. So these movie theaters also have quotas for the official government movies, right? Which there are many of them, right? And if they don't make their quota, they get in big trouble. They might well just get shut down. People could get arrested. They're certainly going to get fined, right? So they have to make their quota. So what they do in China, and this I have seen personally. So anyone who wants to come at me, bring it, right? What they will do is you go in, you want to go see this movie, like a Jack Chan Hong Kong movie, right? Which this is my
Yep.
experience. It was a Jack Chan movie, right? It was that one where he's in the sports car. Well, whatever. But anyway, and what they'll do is they'll print out the ticket as being that government war anti Japan propaganda nonsense. And then they'll scratch it out and write in the name of your movie so you can go in and go to your seat. They do this all the time. So basically, if you're a Hollywood movie maker and you're trying to sell your movie in China, who knows what percentage of your money is lost because they are throwing those ticket sales into their propaganda movies officially. You see what they're doing?
Yeah.
They're printing out the ticket as being for that other movie, not the one you're actually seeing, because they need to match the quota because they're required to have a certain amount of people see that movie every day, which doesn't make any sense. I know it's completely stupid, but that's freaking communism. It's stupid, right? That's why it doesn't work. And of course, the corruption and shit like that. They do this every damn day. So if you're a Hollywood movie maker and you want to sell in China, you're getting cheated and stole from anyway. Why would you bother to cater to them? You're losing, who knows, half your money? Who knows how much money you're losing? Because all these little theaters all across China have to make that quota, and I guarantee you, Hollywood, they're gonna cheat you out of your money than not because they don't want to have the trouble, and I don't blame them. Do you? I mean, if the government's going to come down on you because you didn't sell enough of the right tickets, well, fuck it. Cheat it, and that's what they do. So Hollywood is just stupid. Are they unaware of how China works, or are they
No,
aware?
China owns them. China owns a lot of it. Like their companies, the CCP's multitude of companies have bought up or huge shares in a lot of these movie making distribution houses and things. So that's why they bend the knee to their corporate overlords.
They do, and they're getting cheated straight out. And you guys are saying, yeah, yeah, made up history. Well, I mean, we do something similar. Like if we go make a Nazi movie, right? We do whatever the hell we want. Some movies are try to be historically accurate, sure. Yay America comes in a lot, but whatever. But we also do that stuff that's just whatever. It's complete Nazi fantasy, right? So we do it too. Russia, we do it with the Russians as well, but it's a different. It's pure propaganda when it comes to China, and of course the Chinese people are well aware of it. Other than the netizens, the nationals over there who are besides themselves with anger. But that's a whole nother conversation. But that's how it works. So I don't understand why Hollywood. You don't even bother. Fuck China, dude.
Well, here's the crazy thing. So this movie ended up being cheaper than most of Disney's schlock that they throw out, or at least their big Marvel movies
Hmm.
to make. And it is now the sixth highest domestic gross of all time in
Maverick.
America. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's
So
blockbuster, dude.
yeah, it passed Infinity War domestically in the States. So it is the sixth highest domestic gross of all time. I'm pretty sure The Force Awakens or Endgame, one of those two is at the top. I'd have to double check. But regardless, that is impressive, especially
Yeah, yeah,
considering it's a Tom Cruise movie. It's by far his most successful. Um, and he's been at this for a very long time, over 40 years.
yeah.
It's just an impressive feat, especially considering this movie was supposed to come out like 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. It was supposed to come out before the pandemic, and I know that because I have a tin We went to the movies. I'm pretty sure it was when we went to see Joker, actually, and they were selling commemorative tins. You know how the movies will sell like special buckets and whatever
Sure, sure.
for
Yeah.
popcorn, and they had one for Maverick, and my wife's a big Top Gun fan, so we bought it. And I've had this tin for years waiting for this movie to come out. So I know for a fact this movie was supposed to come out a long time ago. And then it was supposed to come out in, I think, early 2020, and then the pandemic happened. So they
Mm.
shuffled it off, and they were just waiting, trying to wait it out. And they succeeded, obviously, since they made all this money. But this movie was supposed to be years ago. It came out now. It came out in a season that had been low actually for Hollywood. Now it's higher than it was obviously in the pandemic years, but it's been low than it, comparatively to some other years from what I understand. And it just blew away all expectations. Nobody expected it to make this kind of money. But it's the reason that happened is because nobody expected it to be as good as it is.
Oh yeah, Tom
And
just slapped him, dude. And it's
he just
not even a
came out with
crazy
it, man.
Yay America movie either.
No,
Not really.
it's a pro military movie a little bit, but
Sure.
not, I wouldn't say it's crazy pro American.
No.
It's funny
It
because
is, but it's not.
even people I've talked to about it or seen them talk about it like from overseas, the Europeans and stuff, were even people who are very anti, military propaganda, whatever you want to call it, were just like, yeah, at the end of this movie, because that's what it does. It just gets it right. And it's been so long since we've had a movie that just felt like a movie. That's what this movie feels like. It felt like every movie we've been wanting the Marvel movies to feel like again. Uh, the last Marvel movie that I would compare this to is probably, sadly, the first Iron Man, where it's just something I can see myself watching Maverick for the rest of my life. It's just
Yeah,
that
no,
kind of
it's
movie.
it's easily rewatchable. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, I think we've definitely spoke enough about it. Well, not really, because I have another thing to talk about. But it's well, well, I might as well just switch over to it since we're still talking. But because Jerry Bruckheimer has some opinion on why this was such a big hit,
Good
and
old Jerry.
and of course he's 100% right. And if I just read this a little bit, renowned Hollywood producer Jerry Bruckheimer recently shared his thoughts on how Top Gun Maverick became such a colossal blockbuster decades after the original was released. Bruckheimer sat down with Entertainment Weekly to reminisce about his involvement with the seminal 1980s classic and how actor Tom Cruise helped revitalize it for a brand new era. Yes, he did. And I still, it's crazy. At certain angles, Tom still looks so young. It's insane, dude.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. There's scenes in this movie at the right angle, like above and at an angle coming down on him. He still looks 20, dude.
Yep.
It's always the character, the themes, the story. Yep. He began, which could be taken as an offhand jab at other companies. Could it? Maybe. Pushing properties that do nothing but propagandize. Yes. On behalf of left wing radicalism. That's the problem. At the very least, it's Bruckheimer saying the obvious to anyone who listened, and he has the pedigree to back it up. He does. That's what it's all about. It's about the emotion. It's about bringing Iceman back. Yes. It's about seeing a real movie. You're in the F-18 just like those actors are. Yes. Yes, you are. They were trained for 3 months to be able to get into an F-18. I would puke, but I would love it. You can see
Yeah.
the struggles of what they're doing, what they're going through. That's all real. That's not made up. Yep. This is a nod to the use of practical effects in a film where CGI would have arguably been more convenient, sure. Because and it also restricts you because there's a lot of smaller companies could never get access to the American military like that. However, the industry's mass adoption of CGI over the last few decades has led to many directors and storytellers relying on it as a crutch at the expense of authenticity and good storytelling. I agree 100%, Mr. Bruckheimer. I think audiences have been seeing so much CGI, which is wonderful. I go to see the same movies, but it's also nice to see the real deal. And that's true. I think Bruckheimer is an actual movie watcher. Some of these guys, some of these people these days, I don't think they watch movies at all. Do you think the Jar Jar Abrams watches movies?
I don't think so.
I don't
No, I
feel
don't.
so. Yeah.
I bet he only watches his own.
Ooh.
I bet he's one of those guys who only
Yeah.
watches his own thing, his own stuff.
Maybe, but I don't feel so. Who knows though? The camaraderie of characters, they get up in the sky and have to be as good as they can be. The Bruce added. The key takeaway, as many movie fans have known for years, is to rely on CGI as an as needed basis. True. The most recent example of over reliance on CGI was the recent Predator franchise sequel, Prey, where nearly every animal in the film was digitally constructed. Why? Why can't you just get an animal wrangler? What are you doing? This
Yeah.
kind of approach yanks, but then again, that movie is very mediocre. For a Predator movie, though, it's seemingly it's better than several of them, but it's not a great movie. But at least they did do something a little bit better, it seems. This kind of approach yanks any sense of immersion out of the film in the same way that 2020's Call of the Wild blew the chances to utilize a real dog for the lead, a la 1991's White Fang starring Ethan Hawke. True, that's true. And
Mhm.
why don't you just get an animal wrangler, especially for that Prey movie? What are you doing? There's a system in Hollywood already set up. Later in the interview, Bruckheimer touched on authenticity in storytelling, why he remarked about the recent film's tremendous success. The audiences love the Marvel, they love the DC stuff. They're beautifully made, but really by really talented people. It's true. Sometimes you want to see something that's real, and that's what Top Gun gives us. These aviators are out there protecting our country right now, flying around the world, and you're taking a ride with them. Well, Mr. Bruckheimer knows how to say a thing.
He does. He's
He
very good at
does.
his job. I mean, look at Tom. Look at him.
Yeah.
That's a movie star, whether you like him or not. The man knows what he's doing. He's been
Well,
doing
he
it for 40 years at the very top of the industry. I
he,
know he's a weird Scientologist with weird
he
beliefs,
is
but
weird. Yeah.
professionally, I can't hate the guy. I don't
Mm-mm.
know what. There's a lot of people
He
who
beat
like
the odds,
Grimlock
really.
who just don't like him.
Well,
There's just something about him. He's off their radar. They're good about it. You can keep him, but I've never been one of those people. I'm not like a big fan of his or anything necessarily, but I don't hate him. And when he does
well,
something really good, I will gladly watch it anytime.
name a Tom Cruise movie that isn't fun to watch. I mean, just even The
Oh, that is
Firm,
tough. It
right?
is tough, yeah.
He's
Like,
just
yeah, because he went in
entertaining,
that
dude.
in like the '90s. He went on that like legal kick, and he was doing smaller scale movies like Jerry Maguire and stuff.
Which is
But
another
ever
really
since the
good
first,
movie.
yes, ever since the first Mission Impossible, really, he's been doing much bigger
Dude,
projects and pushing himself.
I know some people complain about some of those Mission Impossibles, but there's not one of them you can't enjoy. Not one. Those are
Yep.
all very entertaining. Some of them, a couple of them, like in the middle, damn. I mean, damn, dude.
The most recent one's pretty good, actually. I think is it Fallout that's most recent? Whichever one's the newest one is pretty solid. And then they had the ones with Philip Seymour Hoffman in them, which were also
Oh,
very solid.
that one particularly is probably the best.
Yeah.
Talking about, but yeah, no, Tom brings it, dude, and against all the odds. I mean, he is Hollywood does like smaller people, but he is way undersized. But he makes
Yeah,
it
he's very
work.
tough.
And the thing about Tom is, as tiny as he sells big. You never really feel Tom is very small. He
Right.
sells big, and that's part of his job, right?
That's how he
Um,
carries himself.
yeah, it's how there's all kind of some work to it, but it's about selling it, and it's why we see a lot with these actors these days who are so teeny and they're trying to sell their being badasses, male or female, doesn't matter. They just don't sell it, dude. They do not sell it at all. He does, and he does it pretty well. I went and rewatched The Mummy again.
Mhm.
And it is not a great movie, to be fair. But there are some really solid things in that, and he does a pretty good job as usual. Right? It's Tom
Yep.
Cruise. It's going to be entertaining. This, however, is different. This movie. This movie is what I would call an actual movie actor doing his
Yes.
business. And it goes on, but Bruckheimer, you get the gist of it. Bruckheimer is saying exactly what every one of us are thinking, right?
Yep.
He did, Eric. But yeah, he's saying exactly what we're all thinking, and it's 100% true.
And it's
Yeah,
Tom Cruise is one of these guys who, like I said, love him or hate him, you're not going to replace him. once he's gone, once he retires or passes away, you're not getting another. Right? He's like a Sean Connery or something like that. He's that kind of movie star
Yeah,
that he just has the power that is needed to be the star power, the to be what he is. He's that type of guy, and by all accounts, yeah, he's a weird dude, but he seems like a very courteous guy, like he's very respectful. He doesn't
oh no,
ever try to disrespect, especially not fans, unless
he's
they're
not an
being total
asshole at all.
douchebags.
He's not an
Yeah,
asshole.
he's actually seems
He
like a really genuine guy otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, his head is in a weird place when it comes to Scientology because understand the celebrities who are part of Scientology, they get catered to. If you're a normal person in
Yeah,
Scientology, you have to spend a lot of money. They basically
right.
want to suck all the money out of you. People like Tom Cruise, they don't. They get all kind of perks and benefits because they want their star power to as an advertisement for Scientology. And someone like John Travolta, seemingly to me, is more in for the perks than he is the belief. Tom is a true believer, though. That's clear.
Yes,
That's
which is
very clear.
very weird, but whatever, Tom. If it works for you, who
Whatever,
am I to judge?
whatever. And it is all about focus. And you're right, Eric. Most of the time, he is playing Tom Cruise. Like most actors, they do themselves, and they do it. And if you like that, you like it. This movie is
Yeah.
different, however. You know what I loved about the Maverick character is the humility.
Yes.
And it
Which is
shows
weird.
30 years of a career has made him
Right.
humble. It's
He's much
really,
much more mature than he was in the
oh my
first movie. Because
God,
the first movie, he is borderline insufferable in parts of it. Like
which
most of
is
the
the point,
pilots
though.
are.
That's the point,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that in this one, he is much more mature. He seems like he is stuck a little bit, but at the same time, he's not as hot-headed. He's not as
No, no,
brash.
no, and he's not at all.
Not at
And
all.
and he understands his shortcomings. He's learned. He's grown.
Yes.
He's come full circle. And that's another thing. If you're a person who grew up with the Top Gun, or even not, even you just saw Top Gun, that is a continuation. That's what you call like a character arc,
Yes.
right?
One of those tidbits. One of
Yeah,
those
those
crazy wacky things.
those goofy things. Yeah.
God.
But
It's not like what they've done to my boy Thor for the last 5
oh
movies he's
well,
been in, where
they've
he
never done him right.
completely forgets every lesson he learned the movie before.
Yeah, yeah,
So
no,
there's
yeah.
that.
Yeah, well, these are just
Ah,
poor storytellers. But nevertheless, I am going to move away from it and stop gushing over it. But if you haven't seen this movie, dude, don't be like me. Adrian, go watch this movie. It just I had no opportunity to really see it because it doesn't hasn't come on any of the streaming stuff. And finally, the kind of streaming service that I use, big air quotes, it was just a cam the whole time, and I won't watch cams. I won't watch them, right?
yeah.
And I'm the type of guy I watch a torrent, and if I like the movie, I will buy it. I'm not that type. I do
Yeah.
spend money. I just
I do that too.
for me, it's like it's an opportunity to see if it's worth me having. Because as I've gotten older, my collection has become tighter, right, of what I want in my collection. And this is definitely going in it. I will spend money on this movie. And it's just
The last
phenomenal.
movie that made me like that, where I instantly wanted to buy it, was the first John Wick after I
Oh yeah,
watched it.
yeah, good
It's
movie.
the same I'd say it's better, but it's a very similar thing. It does all of the right things to basic movie making.
Yeah,
If it asks a question, it answers it, which is
yeah,
very important. Chekhov's gun is one of the top principles in storytelling. If you
yeah,
don't know what it is, look up Chekhov's gun. These So many of these filmmakers, especially Abrams, do it all the time where they ask questions or they present quandaries to the audience and then they just don't answer them.
yeah.
It's so
Because
frustrating.
they're subverting expectation. You see.
Oh, they're
Yeah,
subverting
yeah,
common sense is what they're
idiots.
subverting. Jeez.
Idiots. But no, this is a whole nother thing. This is a truly great movie. Truly great. It's not
Yeah.
like his Mission Impossible stuff, which is great fun. They're wonderful fun. That's not what this is. This is an actual great movie. And the ironically beautiful, tasty point about this does not qualify for the new Oscars requirements. Therefore, it can't even be nominated. How
That's amazing.
beautiful that is. How dare the Academy think that they can tell people how to make a movie. If you did that a decade or even like 20 years ago, you would have actors just up in arms for you daring to interfere with the artistic process, right? But no, these days you have to have this many blacks in a leading role, this many gays, this many that. They've literally put quotas on shit, as all
Yeah.
frickin' Marxists do, right?
And they
Uh,
wonder why we call them communists. I
yeah.
can't imagine.
And this movie does not qualify.
And the
Therefore,
sad thing is, even if it did, because it's Tom, they probably still wouldn't even consider it.
they don't like him, huh?
Because he does have this stigma. Yeah, he does for some reason. They just has this stigma about him. He's one of these guys that they'll never even really put in the conversation. But I would say honestly, especially that scene with him and Iceman, that's the best acting I've seen him do in 20
Oh,
years.
dude, it
Like
was
that was
spectacular. That
amazing.
scene was
Yeah.
amazingly good, and they handled it so well. I know there's a couple of you haven't seen it, so I'll back up on the spoilers, but it's really exactly how you do that. That's what the first thing I said when I started this section. This is how
Yep.
you do this.
That's right.
This is how you do this. So I don't even know who the director of this movie is. I know Bruckheimer is chiming in, and he's 100% right. But whoever this director is, dude, hats off, brother. That's how you do that, and he'll never get the accolade he deserves for it either. Not
Nope.
from well, he will it from us, but well, what I got to find out what this guy's name is. Hold on a
His
second.
name is Joseph Kaczynski.
Joseph Kosinski. Okay, I
Yep.
never heard of him before, but that's a movie maker, dude,
Yeah,
without
he hasn't
question.
made much. He did Oblivion. Uh,
Which I
I think
liked. Yeah.
I think that's the Tom Cruise Oblivion. Yep, that is good. That's another Tom Cruise movie where he's not Tom Cruise,
Mm,
right? It's one of those. Maybe this director's just the guy who can pull that out of him. I don't know.
maybe. And Oblivion didn't get a lot of buzz from the critics whatsoever, whereas this movie is like 96% from the critics and 99 from the audience. So I mean,
Yes.
Jesus, dude, that's rare, right, to be that high. But Oblivion is one that didn't get much love, but it's actually a very solid movie, dude. It's
Yep.
very solid. You know, another movie that doesn't get any love that was actually really, really solid flick was Johnny Depp's Transcendence. Depp does some stuff I don't really care. I don't give a shit about his Jack Sparrow, and there's a bunch of stuff I don't care about. His Mad Hatter is, fuck off, Johnny Depp. But Transcendence is actually a really good Johnny Depp performance because he has to be robot-like throughout the majority of the story, and it's hard to sell that well, right? And he
Right.
does. Johnny is an actual good actor when he bothers.
When
But
he wants to be.
yeah, when he wants to be. Anyway, let's move on.
That director also did Tron Legacy, which I really like that too.
Yeah, that wasn't
So
bad
maybe
either.
he is the guy. Maybe he's the guy that we need to do legacy movies.
Maybe. Yeah, this movie was awesome, and there's no way he's not going to get more opportunity. It doesn't matter what Hollywood thinks.
No,
$1.4 billion, he's getting another
no,
movie.
producers will be all over him.
Yeah,
They'll be
all
all
over
over
him,
him.
dude. Yeah. So hopefully he's able to command the authority to project his vision. And that's, of course, we're assuming there weren't other producers involved that actually reined him in. We don't really know, of course. But whatever, good movie. Go check it out. And now for something completely different.
Uh-oh. Oh boy, yeah. Yeah, I saw this. Wizards of the Coast race swaps Aragorn for Magic the Gathering's upcoming The Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth set. Our goal is a modern take on the work of J.R.R. Tolkien.
Aren't you sick of
A
this cultural
modern take.
appropriation?
I am sick of people putting on blinders to it.
Yeah.
I at this point I expect it from these retards. What I don't expect is the people to argue and say it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When does it matter? What do they have to change for it to matter? Because this stuff should matter culturally. It matters to me, should matter to everybody in our culture. So why doesn't it matter? What is the sacred cow? What is the line they shouldn't cross? There's none? They should just
Well,
change
when it
whatever they
comes to
want at
white
any
people,
time?
there is none. There clearly is none.
Apparently.
But
Apparently.
WotC is has been going downhill for years. They're definitely infected with this wokeness, without question. And of course, the usually when, which of course, when you talk about WotC, all of us TSR guys in our D&D comes into play, but they own many other properties, not just D&D. But the good thing about D&D, however, is it doesn't matter how much wokeness they put in, you can create whatever you want to create, right? So
Right.
it's less impactful. But if you're a Magic player, then you are certainly being impacted. I mean, why in the hell would you make Aragon a black guy? Well, because it's time, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Um,
because we're a modern take. In other words, they're fixing Tolkien. Anybody who says that's not a political statement, you're just lying.
no, no,
And
no,
it's
sure.
it's a direct attack on the intent of the creator.
And
I
then
have it. I read it yesterday just to prove a point. I have it. The second edition forward, Tolkien explicitly says his work has no intent. He is not making political messaging. He was literally writing this during World War II.
yeah,
You don't think if he was going to put political messaging in there, he didn't have plenty of material to base it off of?
and you can see reflections of it for sure. But yeah, no, this is just nonsense. And they keep saying in our modern world. What are you talking about? Your modern world?
There's no
Because
white people in their world,
yeah,
apparently.
but
They
the
just,
thing is,
they don't-
their world is not the real world. The
no.
average people don't think like you. You're a small percentage that have gotten way too much authority, right?
Yes.
It's not the modern world at all. It's your delusion, right? And funny thing, if you look at some of the delusion, like let's take a look at an extremely delusional individual called Greta Thunberg, right? And how she became an actual cult of personality. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
This little broken, diseased child, right? And they started Europe literally started making mandates off the back of what she was saying. Now, of course, she wasn't saying that she was being fed this, and this is those what do we call them, greens, I guess. In Europe, they call them greens.
Yeah.
Their propaganda, really. She was just made a poster child of it. However, they followed all of those things, and look at where they are now. Look at them. They have
Yeah.
rolling brownouts and blackouts across many of the European countries and their cities. They're desperate. You have fuel prices through the freaking roof, and it's not Putin's fault. It's their own damn fault for getting rid of nuclear power, getting rid of coal, getting rid of gasoline, and making everything green. The problem with green is it doesn't work yet. It just doesn't work yet. Solar power is not effective enough. Wind power is not effective enough. Hydropower can be, but it also is limited in its reach, right? Especially when it comes down to exactly how are you utilizing it, and can you sustain energy if especially you have a very powerful river that you would think would like, oh, powerful river, that makes it all easy. Well, no. It actually you lose a lot of your potential energy because you're constantly having to sweat off the water, right? It doesn't work as you think it would, right? A smaller, consistent river is going to produce far more energy than a giant one, respectively, right? So I mean, it's just pure stupidity what Europe's doing right now. And oddly enough, France is one of the few places that didn't get super stupid. Majority of all the energy reserves in France are nuclear based, and they're fine. They have no problem whatsoever. It's all the other countries that have actually absolutely fucked themselves, like Britain and Germany, etc. And the Eastern Baltic countries are kind of laughing now. They're like, dude, you're morons. We told you not to do that, and you mocked and laughed at us. Well, who's laughing now, right? And it all comes. And I know this is a little bit far away from WotC making a little playing card that has one little teeny image of Aragon on it, but it's all related, isn't it? Isn't
Yes.
it? It's
Well,
the same
they even have a
stupidity.
term for it. It's called intersectionality.
Yeah.
They believe all of this is related and they must all be in congruence at all times, or else it's some form of sin against their ideology. Um, this sort of thinking right here is utterly disgusting, and I really get tired of. And it's a conditioned thing, white people especially, saying it's not a big deal.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
You've been conditioned. You have Stockholm syndrome. These people are abusing you right to
Yes.
your face.
Hmm.
If we did it to other cultures, and we have, they said it was wrong and got very upset about it, rightfully so.
Right.
It's not acceptable to
Yeah,
continuously
it's true.
do it, and to do it as if you're doing some kind of great political thing. It's a modernization. No, it's not. The works of J.R.R. Tolkien were created for a very specific purpose. They had no political intent, but they did have a purpose, and that
Mm.
purpose was as a mythology for the English people, or the
The
Anglican people.
Anglo-Saxons, yeah, the Anglicans, yeah.
And
Um,
he was very explicit about that. This isn't just something we are, oh, you're
no,
making. No, he said this repeatedly. That was the point of it.
yeah,
So to say that you can just randomly take one of the main characters, I would say the third protagonist of the story, and just turn him into something he wasn't because we're somehow modernizing it, is so disgustingly repugnant to me that it literally makes my throat tight. You know when you feel like you're gonna puke? When I
yeah,
first saw this, that's what I felt like. I was, ah, that's
yeah.
just,
Well,
it's gross.
it's about revenge, and they are, at least
Yes.
these days, they're openly saying that no, we're going to make you suffer for all the bad things your ancestors did. And of course, the
Yeah.
reality is the ancestors didn't do anywhere near as bad as you say they did. It's
No.
bullshit, right? It's not. Once again, you're not separating government from the people. But
Well, they're also
whatever.
cherry picking. They're
They
also
are.
cherry picking the worst and acting like that was standard
Yeah.
commonplace. Like we've all heard the smallpox blankets. If that was ever done, it was maybe once or twice in very
Well,
specific
it
locations.
was never done, actually. It was never ever
Yeah,
done. That's complete bullshit that's been debunked. Not
yeah,
even along the fact that they didn't even have germ theory at that time, right?
correct.
Beyond that. Now, it's not saying that the people didn't have an understanding that there was some connection. I imagine they did. But that is completely debunked. That never happened. That never happened,
It's all
right?
nonsense, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so against this kind of stuff. Is because it gives license to make changes to actual historical fact.
It does.
We've seen this. We've seen it with other works, and we've seen it with other adaptations, as they
Mhm.
call them, of actual historical people in their lives. Like just recently, we saw the black female jarl.
Yeah, dumb.
What?
It's stupid.
What?
Yeah, it's stupid. Yeah. It's like, why not? Well, why? Why?
You had the right question with the first part there. Why?
Yeah, why?
Just
Yeah.
why at all?
Yeah, yeah. But whatever. This is really not that big a deal. I'm not buying it. So, fine. But it just shows you once again another freaking cog in the wheel, isn't it? Just
Yeah, I
over
said
and
for a
over
long
and
time,
over.
man. I was saying it on here for years. Adrian was watching one of our old streams while he was at work, listening to it, and he said, "Yeah, you have been saying that for years.
We have.
Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings was their golden goose. It's the
Oh
one
yeah.
they've wanted. These sick people, they desperately wanted to bastardize Tolkien to
Oh
their
yeah.
ridiculous worldview,
Get
and now
that
they're getting to
male
it.
hobbit. You got to get him.
Yep.
That damn Frodo representing all that
How,
masculinity.
how dare he?
How
How
dare
dare he,
he?
sir?
Yes, yes. Which is funny when you use the when you have a British person and you talk about masculinity. They don't usually go together. Anyway,
Brit bongs blown the fuck out right
yeah,
there.
right, right, right. All right. Here we go.
New Black Adam toy leak indicates major DC criminal organization is in the movie and has ties to Sabak.
Now, we already talked about this a little bit. We talked about the Sabak and the mention of it, and I think I said that well, this is going to be your big bad. This is the whole thing. They're going to make Black Adam a good guy, and Sabak is going to be the bad, and he's going to unite with people, and they're going to come together, and they're going to beat Sabak. And of course, that's exactly what they're doing, right? And of course,
Mhm.
Sabak, if you read the DC Comics, you understand he is directly connected to Intergang. And then this article does get into the fact that these are all creations along with the new gods of our boy Jack Kirby. And yada 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 yada. So it's confirmed. We always already surmised. So it is 100% confirmed. Sabak is the bad guy. And all I'm going to do is reiterate what I said before. Mistake,
Mm.
mistake. I don't mind Sabak being one of the bad guys. He's certainly a rival of Adam, right? Well, of course he is. But especially when it comes to Kahndaq and all the battles they've had over it. But Black Adam is not a good guy. He should not be a good guy. He should not
That's
be
right.
the hero. He is a villain, and he
Yeah.
should be horribly villainous. But that's not what we're going to get. He's going to be a dark hero. He's going to be a good guy. He's not going to be mean or nasty at all. He's going to be this this wise, understanding, good guy that sometimes you have to break a few eggs to get things done. That's what he's going to be, right? And it's
I hope not.
bullshit. No, it is exactly what it's going to be, dude. I'm telling you.
Hopefully they didn't pull that trigger, and it is going to be more of what you said, with a more like a rivalry. From what the trailers that so far, it looks like they're trying to get him to be a good guy, like Doctor Fate is. He's trying to talk him over to the good side. We'll see. I really hope not, because I really want this movie to work. If for no other
Yeah, I'll be
reason
back in
than
a second.
I want, if for no other reason than I want Henry Cavill versus The Rock, Superman versus Black Adam, because I know The Rock wants it, and I want a good Henry Cavill Superman movie where he gets to be the hero of the movie as Superman, instead of, well, I don't even know what the hell was going on in these other movies. But no, I still have hopes for this movie. Um, I don't know why though. If you expect me to explain it rationally, I don't have one. Just something about this tells me this one's going to work out okay. I don't think it's going to be a masterpiece. It's probably not going to be anywhere near as good as Top Gun, but I think it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be right there in the upper to above average film, which is really all we need it to be. I mean, Black Adam. I'm sure there's a lot of people who love Black Adam as a character, but he's not the best of their characters, especially of their villains in DC. He's one of the better ones, but he's not in the upper echelon. In my opinion. Um, so hopefully this can be worked out, and they actually do a good job of it. I am worried, like Chester said, that they're going to make him too much of a good boy, too much of a, oh, he's just a misunderstood guy, or blah 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 blah. No, no, we understand why Black Adam does what he does. It doesn't make it right, but we get it. We understand what his motivations are, depending on the iteration of him. But typically, he has reasonable. Uh, when I say reasonable, I'm not justifying it, but reasonable. Like, I can understand why he would go to the lengths he does and what he does, what he does. But that doesn't mean that it's the morally right thing to do. It doesn't make him a good guy by any
Well, it's
means.
not even usually that. He's a cruel,
Yes.
sadistic bastard. He's the type of guy that an old lady falls down, skins her knee, he smiles. Right?
Yes.
That's what Black Adam is, because it's a pathetic human that deserves nothing but to be ground under his heel. That is Black Adam. That's what he is. And I'm disappointed, Dwayne, because Dwayne, you had an opportunity to play an absolutely vicious, badass villain, dude. You could have
Hmm.
embraced that 100% and had a lot of fun with it and just been this nasty thing. And of course, in your movie and other movies, you don't defeat Black Adam. You delay him, right?
Right.
You don't defeat him. It's very rare that he gets defeated for any length of time. You delay this guy because this guy is a freaking force of nature, and he revels in your suffering. That's Black
Yes.
Adam, dude. It's God damn it, man.
Well, one of the things they've done, at least from my understanding recently, is they've tried to make him a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Humanized, I guess.
Yeah, but that's what
And
they do
they've
with
given him,
everything. They make the bad guy the good
yes,
guy and the good guy questionable. That's what they
yes. They've
do.
they've been doing that heavily with him for a while though. Even before they went like hard woke nonsense, they've been trying to personify him, turn him, humanize him as much as possible. And I don't really care one way or the other. I still have hope this is going to be a good film. We'll see.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think it's going to be great. I don't think it's going to be as good as, like, some of their
Well,
best
I'm
that
sure
they've
it could
put
be
out. But I think,
entertaining. I'm not worried about that,
yeah,
but that's not the
I think the
point.
action's going to look good. I think from what we've seen, it does look pretty good. And we don't know what the story is yet. I hope Sabak is in it because I think Sabak's awesome. Um, but, well, if they do
Well,
him
he
well.
is in it.
But what
He's
we have
definitely
seen,
in it. Yeah.
We've seen the best casting they've ever done though, with Pierce Brosnan as Doctor Fate. That is, I
It's
think
a good
that's
choice.
probably why I want this movie to work so well. Is because that casting, I didn't even ever think of it, and I'm like, oh my god, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
No, I'm sure it's gonna be a
So
fun movie. I'm not worried about that at all. This is another guy, Dwayne Johnson. He's just fun. He doesn't.
yeah,
He's not like Tom and has the potential to do truly good, amazing acting. But he's fun though.
right.
Dwayne is fun. But I just really bugs me, dude, because especially from Dwayne's point of view, dude, you're a big time Hollywood star. Take that opportunity to play this ruthless, nasty villain. He would have so much fun with it, and we know he'd be good at it because he plays the heel well,
Oh yeah.
right? We know he'd be badass at this, just arrogant and dismissive, kind of like he really is in real life. Just play you, dude.
right. Just turn your personality up to 11.
No, Joshua, that would be you're thinking of Namor. Namor is the neutral one. They do look similar. They're very similar looking, true. But no, Namor is more neutral. He's been a villain and a good guy. He's been both. Black Adam's a bad dude. And it seems in modern times, of course, you're right, they are trying to soften him, as they do
Yeah.
with everything. But it also seems to me in modern times, they've taken away one of the few understandable pains of him, his wife.
Yeah,
Because
that's
a
strange.
Yeah, it's weird. They never played it up as being as sincere as Mr. Freeze when it comes to his wife, loss of his wife.
Yeah.
But it still was a factor, a little bit of story
Well,
development,
that's what
right?
I was talking about, right? That the original motivations are understandable. He lost
Yeah,
his
yeah,
wife,
sure,
and
sure,
it
sure.
kind of drove him over a cliff of insanity a little bit.
And no, he is
Um,
insane. That's important
yeah,
to understand. He's crazy.
yes,
He has completely broke. He's given up, and humanity is nothing but insects to be obliterated. That he's gone beyond the deep end. Fair enough, and that's why it's so desperate to stop him, right?
right,
Because you can't negotiate with him. You can negotiate with Mister Freeze, right? You can ultimately. You can't negotiate with him. He's almost in a kind of zombie category, right? Right?
right,
Because there's no negotiating with this guy. He's better than you, and he will murder your ass, right? Which is why
yep,
often when you see him being fought, it's not just Shazam or just Superman, it's all of them
right.
because his threat is that serious, right? But whatever, I'm sure it's going to be fun. I'm not. I have no delusions that it won't be. I'm just disappointed because I really would have loved to seen Dwayne take a real deep bite into a villain. You know,
Yeah, he hasn't really done villains. I'm trying to think. The last time he was, I don't think he's been one. Has he ever been
no,
the bad guy?
not that
That's
I
a
can
shame.
think of. Not
I
not
think
since
he
his
would
wrestling
enjoy that.
days.
Yeah, I think he would. Well, since the Scorpion King in the second Mummy movie.
Well, that's
Uh,
that's not real. That's not a real movie now. Come on.
I hope. I hope he does eventually go for it because he really is a phenomenal dickhead when he
No,
wants
he
to
is.
be.
He is. He
Like
is.
he knows how to do it. He knows how to play that character very well. So I think you're right. I think he could have, and hopefully he will. Like I said, we haven't seen this yet. We have seen some stuff around it. It could just be marketing spin to try and sell toys.
Maybe.
Very well possible. But from what I've seen in the trailers, like I was saying earlier, he does seem very dismissive. He looks a little bit more mellow than he should be, though. Right? He's not quite as aggressive as I would like to see him be.
Well, he should be
Because Black Adam,
vindictive. He should be
yeah, yeah,
cruel. Cruel is
yeah,
the first word that comes to my mind when you say Black Adam. Cruel.
and he gives no fucks. Right? He just
No,
don't
he
care.
doesn't because he doesn't have to, right?
Yes.
But and having Sabak in there as a competitor, sure, why not, right?
Yeah.
That's not a problem because Sabak is a guy that can go toe to toe with him. So that's fair enough. But I just telling you, dude, all the vibes I'm getting off of this, Sabak's the bad guy, he's the good guy. It's that
I
simple.
hope not. I
You
hope
know.
they just instead what they do, because from what I hear, the JSA is going to be fairly well in this,
Oh
or
no,
some version
he
of it.
makes with the Justice Society. He's
Yeah,
hooking up with them, and they're gonna come together to beat Sabak, which is ridiculous because
I
Black Adam doesn't need their help to beat Sabak anyway. What are you talking about?
what I'm hoping instead happens, which very well could be what you said, but what I'm hoping happens is basically like you said, they're competing with each other, and it's more like a monster movie almost, right? They're the two forces colliding, him and Sabak, and the JSA is trying to stop it. I'm hoping that's what we get
Yeah,
because that would
well,
be a much
maybe.
better movie.
There are a couple things in the trailer that shows him doing bad, but I just feel like when he first wakes up, because you know he's gonna wake up, right?
Yeah.
He's got to do his normal Black Adam stuff, and Doctor Fate is going to talk him down, and then he becomes a good guy. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be like
I
the
hope we
first
get to
10
see
minutes of
Doctor
the
Fate do
movie.
some cool stuff. I hope they don't Doctor Strange him right out of the gate, and he's just kind of there for narrative
Nerf the hell
purposes.
out of him like they did with Doctor
Yeah,
Strange. Yeah, I understand why Marvel did that because if you want to have Doctor Strange in there, you're gonna have to nerf him because his power level is just way beyond all that other stuff, right?
I
Uh,
agree, especially in the group movies, but in his own movie too, like
yeah,
it's
it's
ridiculous.
they nerfed him a lot. My son complained about that. He was because he actually likes Doctor Strange comic book, and he was well, what? Why
Well,
did
because
you turn
even
him
in the
into
group
a
books,
kung fu guy?
yeah, that was weird. In the group books, a lot of times they don't necessarily nerf his power, but they find some reason he can't use it. Right?
Oh, sure, 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 sure. Because he's more of a plot device, is what Doctor
Yes.
Strange is. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
his power, it's kind of like the Spectre over in DC, right? I mean, they're
Right.
not story wise, they're not the same, but power wise, they are similar. And this you can't have interjected Spectre directly into anything. He's a plot device, right?
Right.
Well,
Well,
whatever.
hopefully this movie's good. I still have hope for it.
Sure.
We'll see. So far, I have a very high batting average with movies that I've watched that have come out this year or relatively this year. Like the Spider-Man movie came out at the end of last year. Pretty much all of them have been at least decent, right?
Yeah, sure.
Above a 5, in my opinion. So I hope that trend continues. Even Uncharted, which wasn't an Uncharted movie, but it was still a fun little action movie,
Haven't watched it.
was fine. So hopefully this one is at least uh it doesn't insult my intelligence, right? A lot of the DC movies are just stupid. They're just dumb. They don't have good storytelling. The plot's all over the damn place.
Yeah.
There's plot holes left and right. The heroes are doing things like, having non-consensual sex with a man. That was a little weird, Wonder Woman. You basically raped a dude. Uh,
Yeah, that was a shame that they allowed the woke charge to run that movie because the first
yeah,
movie was a solid 5. It was very watchable. There was nothing wrong with it, and they could have continued that, maybe even improved it, right? But
yeah.
no, that second movie is just trash. But anyway, moving along here, but we'll see. I'm sure it'll be a good movie anyway.
Yes. Multiple CBR writers attack Eric July's ISOM #1 campaign. One calls customers, quote, brainwash. This is from our boy JDA.
All right, now it's not just CBR. It's a lot of
No,
people
it's the industry.
are attacking Eric July, and
The
we've mentioned this
gatekeepers.
before. The gatekeepers, that's right. But some of their complaints are weird. They're going on because it's a 100-page book he's selling for $35, and they're like that's too expensive, and they give examples of other things that are nearly the same price, and I don't know what they're trying to do. But they keep coming back to the brainwash, white supremacists, which is he's black, by the way, just so you
And
know.
like, he's not even just
Um,
like, mixed black or whatever.
no,
No,
he's
he's
black,
black.
dude. Yeah,
He's a black man.
but he's not the right kind of black,
That's
I
right.
suppose. But whatever. But I brought this up not to talk about this article, to talk about the attacks in general, because I'm a bit confused. So
Yeah.
let me go over here real quick and check this out. Now, they keep saying that this is extreme right wing. right? Is what they're accusing it of being. Right wing,
Okay.
Nazis, white supremacists, all the nonsense we hear all the time, same nonsense we hear. That it's this is super right wing. And you know, I kind of went through this before and I just kind of breezed through it, but I hadn't noticed anything right wing or political at all. So I thought I'd come back over here and take a look and see if I can't find something political. Just,
Yeah.
to see what is it they're talking about. So let's just go through the page and actually read it. Riververse Comics, a comic book company for comic book readers. Okay, is that political? I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, let's continue. Maybe we'll find something. I don't know. The American comic book industry has its issues. Well, it's true, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a market. That's also true. We know that's true. You just want awesome comics and a place to escape. Somebody has to bring it back to the essence. Why not us? So it's almost anti-political.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's keep going though. I could be wrong, right? Our first campaign is stupid name.
It is.
The first campaign for Riververse Publishing is Somme number one. Read up on the story and grab limited edition merchandise items that will only be available for the duration of the campaign. Pretty standard for a crowdfunder. Uh, Anything political about that?
Nope.
No. Okay, let's keep looking. Code of it must be here. This must be a code of
Uh-oh.
ethics. So right wing ethics. Am I right? Okay. Let's see. This must be the smoking gun must be right here. Let's take a look. Although we are attempting to take comics back to the essence of what you know and love, we do believe there are areas that should be updated for the better. Okay, all right. It's getting super political there, Mr. July. We'd like to maintain a level of respectable transparency so that you know what we're about. Read our guiding principles known as the Rippaverse Code of Ethics. So I suppose that's right here. So let's read that. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and read that?
The Ripperverse ethic. This comic book company was not created at random. Our founder had been rooted in the culture of American comic books since he was a youngster,
Hmm.
and being a creative in the industry was always a dream of his. But the
Hmm.
unfortunate state of the industry gave him the push and that he needed to give it a shot. We've seen what works, and we're certainly seeing what not to do. Rippaverse Comics is the product of a comic book guy that still believes in the magic of the culture. With that being said, we are guided by a set of principles that remain the staple of this company.
Okay.
Respect the customer. We want you invested in this brand and everything that comes from it. Rippaverse Comics is not entitled to your money, and we must earn your support. It's on
Okay.
us as the creators, there should be a comma there, to produce something that you find of value and can remain invested. It's impossible to please everybody, but we hope there's a book or character that you look forward to keeping up with. The success of this company will be largely dictated by our ability to keep the customers interested and satisfied. Excuse me. We are not oblivious to this. Respect goes both ways, and we will honor our side of the deal.
Okay.
Should be the deal.
Anything political here?
No,
Uh,
just some not well written
yeah.
copy, but
No.
other than that,
Grammar aside, which worries me. I don't see anything political here. This is rather anti-political, actually.
yeah,
But canon and continuity. All right. Our
canon
aspirations.
and con.
Recon exists. These stories should happen. In part, concepts remain true regardless. Okay, once again, nothing political here. This is just simply, making sure that the entire universe gels together as you would,
Yeah,
right?
no erasing of stories. Basically, is what he's saying.
Once
Um,
again, comprehensive timeline. Repeat the minimum and 700 of these. So, all right. So once again, just this is more about you know, creative integrity. This has nothing to do with politics whatsoever.
right.
Okay, so I don't see anything political here, and you would think that's where it would be code of ethics. Let's come down here. Rip reverse is some video. This is just some general information. Stay up to date. So nothing there. Let's go look at the campaign, shall we? Short story. Go ahead and read that right there.
Avery Silman is a common rancher, but that wasn't always the case. After obtaining some unique abilities, Avery spent a brief stint being a hero under the moniker Isom in the city of Floor Texas. Realizing that it wasn't for him, he walked away from this life. But after responding to a call from his sister, some violent altercations ensue, and has Avery reconsidering his approach. What happened? Grab Isom number one to find out.
Well, we found the racism right there. There it is. A black rancher. Damn
It is
racist.
weird that there's a big push. I don't think this is what he's doing, but there does seem to be this weird push in like the outskirts of Hollywood and stuff to push the idea of the black rancher,
Well,
which there've been
I'm
black
joking. There
ranchers.
are actually black ranchers who are actually black cowboys. They're a
Yes.
minority, but there certainly are. Yeah, I was being facetious. But I have to say, Mr. July, your naming conventions do suck rather badly, sir. Isom and Flourish Spark, dude, dude, you need
Yeah.
some help.
What
Um,
is a floor spark and what is an isom?
yeah,
Explain.
and we read through this before, and this is just his story. There's no politic here. It's just simply
Well, you see,
domestic
that's the
drama,
problem, Jeff.
really, is what it is.
That's the problem. The lack of politics to these people means that it must be political the other way. That whatever way is their opposite, it must be political that way.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it would be whistling to them. You know, it's funny. You'll hear this term a lot. They use this term dog whistling, right? You're
yeah, oh, yeah.
dog whistling to white supremacists and blah, 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 blah.
Okie dokie.
You do understand that the very concept and function of a dog whistle means that only the thing that you're whistling for can hear it, right? So if you hear dog whistles wherever somebody writes something, you're telling on yourself. Only dogs can hear dog whistles. So if you see them everywhere you go, I think you're telling on yourself there, bud. I think
Methinks
if
you
you're
thus do
yeah,
protest too much.
a bit,
Oh,
just a bit.
Shakespeare.
Old
Yeah.
old old
Oh,
Billy.
bad. Yeah. But the thing is, if you want to find that kind of classical, traditional racism, you can go to Mississippi and Alabama. You can find it, right?
Sure.
For sure. It does exist there, and I'm not just talking about the whites against the blacks, because the blacks are extremely racist as well, right?
Yep.
But matter of fact, I would say at the current zeitgeist of America, the blacks are far more racist than the whites at this particular time. However, Texas has always been kind of interesting because the Texans aren't like that. And I'm
Right.
wondering if is it because their entire history of people in Texas have been interacting with La Raza, the Mexicans. And maybe that's why. So it's an interesting place for him to place it because I have not heard any kind of particular incidents of horrible racism coming out of Texas. Have you?
I'm sure it's happened, but
I'm
it's not.
sure.
I
I'm
wouldn't
sure.
say it's a where you hear it from normally.
It doesn't seem
Um,
culturally to be what Texans are about, though.
yeah, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I don't. It's not something that seems to be pushed as heavily in their circle or from their
Right.
circle, if you will.
Well, because you got whites, you got Indians, you got Mexicans, you got blacks.
Right.
They sure there's some Asians mixed in there as well somewhere. But yeah, I just don't think Texans. I don't think that's culturally what they are. So
Well,
that's an
because for a
interesting
lot of
choice.
Texans, they're one of their main things they take great pride in is being a Texan,
Yeah, yeah,
right? They
that's
don't
true.
they do that first. They'll have their religion and obviously national, pride as well, but then they also really have a strong attachment to the idea of being Texan. So I think that's one of the reasons it kind of gets pushed off the plate a little bit because
Yeah,
they kind of us versus them with the rest of the country anyway.
yeah.
So
That's true. They do that. But we went through this entire page before, and it's really a pretty short page, to be fair. It's got some art, which is good. It's got all their stuff they're selling, and they got the little brief interlude stuff, which just what the story's about. It's a pretty tight page. And I don't see anything here that speaks about any kind of right wingness at all. Matter of fact, what I see is a lot of anti politics. What I
yes.
see is, hey, we don't want politics in our stuff. We just want good storytelling, and that's what we're here to deliver. And we're giving you our word that that's what we're doing. So, what they're actually promoting is non political storytelling.
Well, see, they're telling on themselves again, right? These people. So the fact that Eric is a anarcho-capitalist libertarian with a little bit more right-wing slant on his like social issues and whatnot, um, they assume immediately that it must be that. It must be some form of political messaging. It must be
Why?
all
Because he's
these things
normal?
because that's how they are.
Oh
And they
yeah,
cannot make
projection.
a thing
Yeah.
without injecting their own nonsense into it.
Mhm. And that
They can't even fathom the idea that a creator could do otherwise.
yeah,
They
no,
can't, it doesn't even go into their mind.
they're deluded. They're in this strange place in their life. Lady, of course, you're right about the Yellow Rose of Texas. But I just, in general, my entire life, I've never had the feeling of Texans as being racist. It just has
Yeah.
not ever been projected or felt that way. When you think of, white racism, you think of Alabama, you think of Mississippi, right? And I've
Mhm.
lived in these places, and yep, yep, yep. But then again, to put a little bit of balance on it, the black people are equally racist, right?
Yeah.
But then again, I know I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I'm not a big fan of Southern culture. I'm really not. They have some really good food, that's for sure,
Yeah.
fair enough. But and they do have that whole hospitality thing going on. They do have that, but they are the most backstabbing group of people I've ever seen in my life. As soon as you walk away, they're going to talk about you, guaranteed. And it's not just the gossipy women either, right? I've been to many places in my life, and I've never seen a more two-faced culture than I did when I was in down in Alabama. And I know this is going to get me in trouble, whatever, but this is personal experience, right? I just don't care for Southern culture very much, personally. I'll take a Midwesterner, a New Englander. I met many Texans. They're a bit annoying about how great Texas is, but that's about it. California can fall into the fucking ocean, for all I
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
But met Florida people. They seem pretty normal. Of course, there's a lot of a lot of Jewish influence down there. I've been to Georgia, pretty normal. Tennessee, all about their music and their ribs. I've been to a lot of places, but when I say Southern culture, I guess I'm talking about Alabama, and Mississippi, very specifically. Um,
The Bayou.
the Bayou, yeah, the Gulf. I think that's one of my least favorite places on earth, and it's hard to say that because my dad is born and raised Mobile, right? And I
Mobile,
spent a lot of time
Alabama.
in Mobile. So
Night Lady Celtic Moon.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, I probably agree. I think I my view of it is tempered by the fact that they do have really good food.
they do,
Um,
they do, and they
they
do
are
got great
fantastic.
hospitality. They do,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I typically when I go down south, I'll stay more to the middle of the South. So from Kentucky, because obviously Kentucky's right underneath me, all the way down to Florida is a fairly straight shot through Tennessee and Georgia.
Right.
So that's usually where I end up at. And I love Tennessee. I'd live in Tennessee today if I had the ability.
Yeah,
Like
Tennessee's
right now.
nice. Virginia, yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice. Georgia, it depends. Stay out of Atlanta. Don't go to Atlanta.
Yeah, don't even just drive around it if you can.
Yeah,
Don't
don't
even
go anywhere near it. Yeah, it's a freaking hellhole, dude.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, but there are some beautiful places in Georgia for sure. I do like Tennessee quite a bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the people in Tennessee. I like
I love
most
the
things about
mountains.
Tennessee. Yeah, it's gorgeous. Virginias are very very nice. Carolinas are iffy.
There's something
Yeah,
for
there's
Grimlock
something.
that's the
Yeah.
Carolinas.
Uh,
Uh,
but um,
I,
but
I just feel
yeah.
like it's weird because with my heritage, and my wife's kind of the same way, and she's Irish, of Irish descent. But
Mhm.
when we were in last time we were down there, we just love being in the mountains. I don't know what it is. It's a different energy in the mountains.
Yeah.
I love it. I could live there
Yeah.
right now,
Well,
today.
I'm embraced by mountains right now.
Yeah, it
Yeah, for
feels
sure.
good, doesn't it? There's
It is
something about it.
different.
I think there's something to it, man. I think there's something to a little bit the idea of your landscape, your environment having
Right.
a great effect on your psyche.
It is different for me too, because I'm from Narragansett, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
It's flat as flat can be. There's not
Right.
we have a hill which is like, I don't know, a meter high, and that's the hill,
Yep,
right?
that's your hill.
It's super flat. But I do like the mountains, although I kind of require to be near the water though. I don't know. I
Mm.
guess it's just I'm an ocean person. But nevertheless, I was being a bit facetious, of course, about this, but I just don't understand their point because there's nothing on those campaign pages that speak to any politic at all, at all.
Yeah.
And even
Yeah.
if it were political, okay, fair enough. It's his comic book, buy it or don't buy it. But it's not though. But they keep coming back and saying how this is white supremacy, this is right wing, conspiracy, on and on and on. But I see zero evidence of it. I guess I would have to go and watch his streams. I've only seen one or two, and it was pretty mundane from my point of view. It wasn't anything. It was just
He's a
normal.
fairly, compared to especially these people, he's a fairly radical thinker insofar as he is an anarcho-capitalist. He's very anti-government, basically entirely. But he does, like I said, he leans right wing. He's much more conservative in his personal life. He's married, and doesn't like, people being, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word?
In his,
Hedonistic.
oh yeah, fair. Well,
And
I
that
get
too,
that.
we were gonna say in his business. He seems to be, I think he'd get along with he did get along with us. I don't know if you remember, but back in the day when we had our Facebook group, he was in there. He
Yeah.
he posts every now and again,
No, he
before he
sounds. That's
became
why I
famous.
said mundane. He's just kind of like
Yeah.
us. He's not
He's
really
just a he's just
normal
a
dude, really.
a pretty normal middle America dude with a little bit more extreme, quote unquote, take on it. He just takes this thing to the logical conclusion that as he sees it, which is anarcho-capitalism.
Hmm.
Um, but regardless of that, he's not in any way a fascist or a Nazi or a white supremacist for
No,
crying out loud.
certainly,
You don't get
certainly
much
not.
darker than him.
Yeah.
Um, he's he's just a guy who wants to make good comic books, and because he rails on about tokenization or I'm sorry, diversity as they call it,
Hmm.
uh, they think he's some kind of evil guy who apparently hates himself. It's preposterous on the face of it. It's obviously preposterous, and the real reason, Chester, all that's just a front. All that's for the peasants to use as argument. The reason why like CBR and industry insiders are attacking him is because they're fucking scared of him. The dude raised $3.5 million for one book.
Yeah. Good. I hope he
They
makes
should be
more.
scared of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should be scared of him because he's stated outright he's coming for them. That's his goal, is to take them down. Now that's a big goal, but hey, he launched his first book and hit
Yeah.
$3.5 million. So
Well, and he's not wrong about the hedonism, and that's
yeah,
me talking.
yeah,
Well, it's gone too far, dude. It has
it
gone
has,
too far. It's way
it
too
has.
far. These girls are way outside the bounds, man.
The
Particularly,
inmates are running an asylum.
oh my God, dude. And yeah, so I wouldn't want my daughter anywhere near me when I was in my early 20s. You
I
know what
want
I
to
mean?
address real quick this point that it's too much money. That is the most stupid take I've ever heard in my life, and I'll tell
It's
you why.
irrelevant. People pay what they'll pay.
Exactly. Everything is worth what the customer is willing to pay.
Yeah.
If he was charging $1,000 for this book and he found 100 people to pay for it, good on him.
Hmm.
That's between him and his customers. As
That's
long as
true.
he's providing exactly what he said he was going to provide, you cannot say he scammed anybody. You
No.
don't have to agree with the valuation that he and others have made, but it's not a scam just because you disagree with the price. That's like going to McDonald's and because they don't have a dollar menu anymore, like, this is a scam. They're
Right.
scamming me. No, they're not
Well,
scamming you. The price just went up. That's
it,
all.
true. And I do think it's a bit pricey for a 96-page comic, to be fair.
Yeah.
But it's not dramatically so.
No, it's not outrageous,
No.
right? Like if he was charging $100, I'd be a little bit more perturbed. But regardless, if people are willing to pay for it, like our boy Ethan, He has tiers in his campaigns that are outrageous, but
Yep.
people pay for it.
And they will
So
because
who am
it's
I to
Ethan.
complain?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and we've seen plenty of 25, 30-page books go for $25 here on the past
yes,
many years. We've seen it. So it's not outrageous at all in that comparison. But no, they're just grasping at straws here. It just goes to show you how outrageous. You saw Doug, right? Doug's made a little bit of the mainstream YouTuber news, right?
hmm
Recently because he was having a conversation with some moron named Vosh. I don't know who he is. And the guy was trying to push that women can have penises, and Doug, he argued him very fairly well. I think the guy kept saying, "Show me a definition of woman that says that woman can't have a penis," and it's like, well, Doug didn't respond. He just said, "Well, I would come back and say, did your mother have a penis?" Which is a good response from Doug. Good on you, Doug. But the the definition thing that this Vosh guy was pushing out is, well, if you look under the definition of what a woman, it says that a female of the human species is what a woman
yes,
is. And then if you, okay, well, what is a human? You look that up. What is a species? Then you look up the what is a female. Well, a female is a member of the human species that is capable of that has a uterus and capable of carrying children. Becoming pregnant, carrying children is what a female is, as part of the dimorphic species that we are, as
that's right.
most species are. So when he was saying, "Show me a definition," okay, the definition,
Yeah.
the
How about
only
that one?
definition. Yeah, it
Well,
speaks against you. Yeah.
Vaush, I can tell you who he is. He's one of these guys who I honestly think he's a plant by the quote deep state, but we'll leave that for another time. But what he is he's a guy who gets on like Twitch and these other websites, and he
Hmm.
has debates, quote unquote, with right wingers. He's as far as I understand, a socialist, but he might be a full communist. And he's one of these guys who kind of like is like the left wing version of like a Ben Shapiro in a way. What he does is he does now Ben's arguments are usually sound. Sometimes he has bad ones. I've
Academically
seen him.
fact based is what Ben
Yes, I've
Shapiro
had him.
is.
I've have seen him have ones that weren't in a field that he wasn't as fluent in.
Mm.
But what I mean by that is he has a very similar style of debate, meaning one of the things Ben Shapiro does is he's a machine gun. Ba, 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 ba. He hits you with a lot of things real fast, makes it hard to respond. This guy does the same thing, and because he does that, he thinks he's won.
Well,
No,
I
that's not how
well,
you win.
I'm a bit confused because I did see this thing with Doug, and that guy has nowhere near the intellectual capacity of Ben Shapiro.
Correct.
Nowhere
But
near.
what he does have is the sophistry of a woman. So he's able to use sophistry expertly, like he was doing there, and he gets other sophist, emotional, cognitive, feminine idiots to clap like little baby seals for him. When you actually look at the policies he presents, almost all of them fall directly in line with the corporate American agenda. Yet he claims to be a socialist. It's like, okay, buddy.
Yeah,
It's
well,
just one of these guys who I think is full of shit, and
well,
he's been propped up by certain interests that he'll never disclose. Let's put it
well,
that way.
I only saw this one little clip of an interview with him with Doug TenNapel, but m- yeah, I understand your sophistry aspect of it, but he's
Yep.
easily debunked. I mean, he's a foolish
Yeah.
boy, is what he is.
Well, he's
Um,
like 25, and he thinks he knows everything, as 25-year-olds tend to do.
fair. Uh,
He's mid 20s, I think.
yeah, I wouldn't mind having to sit down with a boy, I guess.
That would be interesting. I would watch that.
Well,
Um,
he would become rather upset, I think.
oh, he would. He's a coward. He's one of these guys who he's an internet tough guy type deal. He thinks he's real big and bad because he can, get people deplatformed or whatever. And it's like, okay, all right. Eventually, the real world's gonna come knocking, buddy. Are you ready for it? Because I don't think you are, you chubby little bastard. Don't think you are.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, Doug could have made a more analytical argument, but Doug's argument, what he said, was just fine. In the end, the guy kept throwing those things at him, like you were saying. And Doug's like, "Look, Vash, you're the crazy one here."
Yep.
Simple enough, right? But of course, Doug's argument was true. I mean, If a transgender individual wants to go and cut themselves up and cosplay as something, that's fine. Most of us are, you do what you do, just do it over there, and leave me out of it,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
There's no big deal. I'm not going to interact with you. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to campaign against you, right? You do as you do, right? I'm fine. Just leave me out of it, right?
Yes.
If you want to get into an analytical or academic conversation, you're not a woman.
No.
You're a woman is a person capable of reproduction. You are not that.
That's right.
So I don't understand the argument. If you want to be nice and the person wants to be called she, fine. If they're not too noisy about it, whatever. It's not that big a deal, is it? If we're really going to push the academic conversation that this is an actual woman, no, it's not. There
No.
is no argument to be had. There are no grounds for you to stand upon. You are not a woman. You will never be a woman. And I don't understand why we're having the conversation. You wish to cosplay as a woman, go right ahead. That's fine. And if the people around you wish to indulge you, that's fine. Why not be nice, right? Better to be nice than not nice. But there's no conversation. You're not a woman. You are a man who has cut certain pieces off and pasted on other ones. You're not a woman. I don't understand why this has been allowed to go as far as it's gone because there is no argument
Cowardice.
here. There is no conversation to be had here.
Mm. Yes. It's cowardice. I mean, that's all it is. One of the guys on Twitter, Jesse Kelly, he's a right wing commentator. He says he has said repeatedly that the real epidemic in this country is cowardice. We're a nation of cowards. We're all
I would
too
agree.
afraid to stand up to these bullies, and that's what they are. They're bullies, and they use emotional manipulation, which is all the pronoun stuff is. It's emotional manipulation. They're trying to make you feel bad for them so that you will do what they want. That's all it is.
Mhm.
It could be about anything, whether it keeps them from killing themselves. I don't care. Them not killing themselves is not my responsibility. That's their decision. If they want to make that decision, I'm not going to try and stop them. I believe in human liberty. I think you should be allowed to kill yourself personally.
So
Uh,
yeah, no, euthanasia is a interesting conversation. But it's funny because I left the states. It
yeah,
seems the more we have these conversations, I seemingly preserved the ultimate American
that's good.
male,
Someone's got
I guess, because I don't understand these weird thinkings at all, and I would not capitulate,
yeah.
not for a second. No,
No,
I
we
mean
have to stop. People have to stop capitulating. I won't even do the pronoun thing. I'll call you if you want to be called by a female name. Fine, I don't care. You can change your name. That's your business. But you don't
yeah, I
get to
mean
change my interpretation of reality. And
right.
my interpretation of reality is that you're a man. And I'm sorry if that upsets you, but I'm not going to change that to make you not upset.
Yeah,
Simple as
no,
that.
it's true. In civil discourse, it's fine. There's no reason that we can't be just copacetic with each other, right? That's not the
Yeah.
conversation. It's going beyond that and forcing a demand. It's once again this misunderstanding of the differences between the words tolerance and acceptance.
Yeah.
People, especially in a melting pot that is America, you should be as tolerant as possible, simply because of the cosmopolitan nature of the country. And I would think that you should be tolerant in any culture. Especially if you're a guest there. However, I don't have to accept anything. There is zero requirement for me to accept anything. I just have to
Yes.
tolerate it, right? And they don't understand this because they don't they keep using the word tolerance, but what they want is a demand for acceptance. It's quite different. And of course this applies directly to what July is doing here because they're accusing him of things that he's not doing. This is a comic book that I get it. Who wouldn't want to make a comic book? How much fun is that? And this guy has done it. He has absolutely horrible naming convention. His nomenclature sucks balls, Mr. July. But you've made how much? $3.5 million, dude. You rock on, brother.
Good job, bruh.
Rock,
Good job.
rock the fuck on. And I really hope that someone edits you before you put that book out. That's all I got to say.
Yes. And
That's
get
all.
some copywriters,
Yeah.
somebody who can write some sales copy for you because you probably could have had another million if your splash page didn't
It's
have
only the
dramatic
first one,
errors in
dude.
it.
This could
Yeah.
this could. I mean, it's important. It's incredibly important, and I'm sure he understands because, like I said, I have listened to one or two of his things. He's not a foolish man. Um,
No, he's a smart guy. He's
yeah.
really smart.
Um, therefore, he needs to make sure that when he delivers this thing is a knockout punch. It needs to
Yeah.
be really well done, because that will cement his future. And he definitely seems like, all that language we went through. This is just the beginning. He literally has a plan for a Rippaverse. It is something he wants to do, and good on him, man. I hope he creates something fun, and I hope that he gets some. Get some outside people to come in there who maybe are a little bit better at it than him. I understand this is kind of a personal vanity project for him, and that's 100% cool. But going forward, you're going to need better nomenclature. You're going to need better things, and the people have given you an opportunity to do that. So I hope you do. Anyway, let's move on to the last bit of today. Are you ready?
I am ready. Warner Brothers, Discovery, and Paramount sell the CW. New majority owners seek to turn network around after admitting it's, quote, it is not profitable and, quote, operates at an ongoing loss.
Okay. Well,
No.
we know this. CW has been a failure for quite a long time. There
Yeah.
is an opportunity there to do something. Warner Brothers Discovery is looking to sell. I wouldn't use the word sell, to be honest with you. They've sold a majority of the right, but they've kept some for themselves. They think they sold 70% actually. And they sold it to this company here called, let me find it, to write the company's production. Reached agreement to sell the majority stake with the CW to the Next Star Media Group, who will seek to turn it profitable after years of it operating at an ongoing loss. And they even get in here talking about they're only putting about nine figures of money into this, so it's going to be tight. But the interesting thing about this article is Nexstar are like Food Network people, right? They're the ones who do that kind of
Mm.
stuff, Travel Channel, that kind of thing. Okay, Discovery and them have obviously have a long-term relationship. I get it. But the interesting thing in this article was this. For years, CW has been saying that their demographic is teeny to 30, right?
Right.
But the actual analytics, it seems, Nexstar is releasing the analytics here. The actual analytics is their average viewer is 58.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Therefore, why aren't we selling to the 58? Because that's our market, and that's what they plan on doing. Now, that's probably a very, very, very bad thing for all of us comic book people. It probably means
Eh,
that we're not going to see comic book stuff anymore in CW.
yeah, but is that a bad thing? Because most of it was
Probably not.
garbage.
It is garbage. Yeah, it is garbage. But I mean, I think I would have liked to have seen an improvement, seen some fun stuff. Like one of the biggest disappointments for me with CW stuff. Someone's going to tell me it's not CW. My brain keeps is saying that it isn't. But whatever. The thing that was super disappointing to me was Cloak and Dagger.
Hmm.
That could have been great. That could have been dark because it's a dark story. I mean, I should probably do a spotlight on Cloak and Dagger. Matter of fact, I will, because that is a dark story that could be a wonderful body horror thriller. Just oh my goodness, the story is so dark. And what did they do with it? Oh, I love him. Nonsense. It's like,
Right.
Jesus, did you miss the point, man? Cloak and Dagger is some dark ass shit. Drugs, child sex trafficking, rape. I mean, it's a viciously dark story, dude. It's a bit much,
Right.
to be honest with you. And I could not see Cloak and Dagger being released today like it was in the 70s. In that time when Cloak and Dagger came out, it was a harsher time in entertainment. boy, I tell you what, there were boobs everywhere. But yeah, I'm doing it. I'm going to do Cloak and Dagger Spotlight. Done.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Because that was a huge disappointment. And it just fell into the same nonsense thinking. Look at this. I'm a teenager girl, lesbian. Look at it. Look at it. It's so
Ugh.
silly. It's so damn silly. And you're not getting any more. What you're going to get is Texas Walker Ranger. And fair enough.
Yeah, I really. It's such a shame uh, that
Yeah,
this
right here.
this thing missed the mark so horrifically
Yeah.
because the first season, 2 seasons of The Flash was spectacularly good. Well, the first season definitely. The second season was less so, but it was still pretty good, in my opinion. The first season of Arrow was really good.
Yep.
Second season was okay, but then it fell right off the damn cliff. Um, they had a chance here to really make really compelling superhero television shows. They made a lot of them, and from my estimation, they just missed the boat on more often than not. And then eventually, it got so obscenely political, it was not even watchable.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's an episode, if not, it was probably more than one, but I know for a fact that my wife and I happened to watch of The Flash, where it was basically, I think they even called it like something girl power or something, but it was just all about all the girls, and it was literally a yay feminism episode. At some point, I think somebody even said something to that effect in it, and both of us just rolled our eyes and shut it off, and we never turned it back on. That was it.
Yeah,
That was
no,
the last
it's
time we ever
it's
watched that
it's
show.
crap. It's not, and it
Yeah,
could be fun. It could be nice, a good fun superhero schlock is what it could be.
yeah.
Good old fun stuff. But this, and Flash season one and Arrow season one was that. It was exactly that. It was good fun schlock. But I don't think you're getting any more of this. They're not going to be making this. They're going to be selling to their demographic, which is 58. So
Good.
there it is. So that's done, which I really think is sad. I know there's a lot of crap, and we talk about the crap all the time, but I would like it to not be crap. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And but we do get so much of this silly stuff, and I'm kind of wondering, just off the top of my head here, when will the hubris end? Right? Because every time you see a group of women get together in front of a camera, wherever it might be, a news show, a talk show, a movie, whatever. Anytime you see a group of women in front of the camera, they're always on about, yay, girl power, yay, women, women. We're a bunch of women here having a conversation. It's women, women, women. What kind of hubris? I mean, in reality, is everything in your life about being female? You do realize the world is more than that. There's
Right.
another 50% of people, but all they talk about is women. Women need this. Women have to get that. Women have always had everything. The whole point of the
Yes.
male is to support the mother anyway. But the hubris, the just raw hubris of just saying, hey, ladies, we're going to talk about ladies, that is hubris.
Yes.
That's what that
Narcissist.
is by definition. When will it end? When will we get just humans talking about human shit?
Well,
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know if
in
it'll
most,
ever end. We're joined by an Adrian, it would
We
seem.
are. Go ahead.
yes, I was gonna say most women, like I'm probably gonna piss people off saying this, real women, don't like that shit either.
No, they
No,
don't.
they don't.
They don't. My wife. It irritates my wife more than me. I laugh at it. She gets pissed.
It irritates my wife too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand there's a lot of things going on here. I mean, I've said this before, but it is 100% anthropologically correct statement. Women are naturally selfish. It's built into their
Yes.
DNA. It's an essential part of the survival mechanism that is female, right? And they could be a very good thing, and it could be a very bad thing. Men have similar things, right? The overall aggression, which is once again a DNA survival point, which can be used in a very bad way, and that
Right.
selfishness leads into this hubris and narcissism, and it's not being balanced at all by anybody.
Well, the
Eh,
history of women, which they don't like to admit, but the history of women is to try to dethrone the man often throughout
it
all of
is,
history.
which
They've
is
done
weird
this.
because the whole point of what the men are doing is to serve you. And
Right.
if you
Yeah.
look at any time in history when women have stood up and say we want this, what happened?
Oh
I mean,
They
well, it
get it.
goes south very quickly.
and they get it immediately, and then it goes south because the men are
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
okay, and it wasn't the right choice. It was working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, dumbass.
We have
Uh,
this. We have this interesting story. You might have heard of it. It's a little nugget. Maybe not a lot of
maybe
people have heard of
grandma.
it. It's called the Bible,
Yeah.
and the very first two chapters of it is this story exactly.
Yeah,
Is the man
Right.
existed first? He was doing business effectively, doing his job that God gave him to do.
yep.
The woman decided to listen to the serpent play on her arrogance and her hubris,
Hubris. Yeah.
and she fell for it. And Adam fell for it too because he loved his wife.
Now he's
So,
just a dumbass wanting the pussy, dude. Let's be fair.
but
Another
my point
dumbass
is this
male.
story is as old as literally time.
It
This
is.
story,
Yeah.
and it's something that's in the human condition. It's something that's very hard to overcome. I think, as sexist as this sounds, and I don't give a shit, I think the world's in a better place when men run it. Because
Well,
we, as a group, we have all of us have one weakness, and it's women. But as long as
it
we all
is. Yeah.
collectively decide to control ourselves around that weakness, we can do beautiful things like the
Sure.
Renaissance.
Well, yeah,
So,
but let's quantify that though, right?
yeah,
I mean, because when you talk about infrastructure, is what you mean,
yes,
it is an unfair playing ground anyway, because
correct.
infrastructure is what males do. It's what
Yes,
we instinctively do.
we systemize.
It doesn't make sense. It's like telling a turtle to be as fast as a cheetah. It doesn't make sense. It's not what it does.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's like when you look at how society typically falls, right? Is when men stop doing that
yeah, when we
because they've either been
capitulate to the women.
programmed, or yes, they've been manipulated, or they've been programmed, or they've been retaught, whatever you want to call it. We're seeing that now,
Oh yeah, we've seen it many times
live.
before. Women are men are very simple. We serve the female, the mother particularly. It's just what we are. Now we can have our own hobbies, our own conversations like we're having here, but when push comes to shove, that's what we do. It just is, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Every time I say that, I feel it just Bernie Sanders comes in my head, and it pisses me off.
Well, it's
But
interesting, right? Because that dynamic is what nationalism is. Most really nationalistic movements will typically call their country either the fatherland or the motherland, but it's the
sure,
same idea. You're
Yeah.
serving you're serving this entity that you have placed above yourself in some manner. Now, the reason they use motherland is for exactly what you're saying, because we do serve mom, right?
sure.
Even dad will typically serve mom.
It's the
In the
eternal
right, I
service
would
of the
say,
future, right?
yes, exactly. What I would say the right way to frame it when you're talking about a patriarchal quote unquote society is yes, men lead, but they lead to defend and preserve the woman. That's
It
why they do it.
and it's not even leading. It's simply managing the infrastructure. It's
Yes.
just that's what it is.
Right.
And men have this incredible advantage in that regard that women don't have. And this is like we talked about it before, where you put a bunch of men on one island, a bunch of women on the other island, and you see the absolute debacle that takes place. And it's not a fair playing field
No.
because if you a huge advantage men have is this, and it's why we're good at the infrastructure and women aren't good at it. The women are much better at the other things that we desperately need them for. And it's this:
Yeah,
you put a bunch of men in a room, 10 minutes, there's an alpha in charge, done,
that's right.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's done, and we just it is, and there's no hurt feelings. There's no, I want my voice heard. No, we all agree that person knows what they're doing. We're gonna follow them. Let's just get it done. Just get it done. We don't even need to talk about it. Just get it done. I don't have to say, "Oh, you grab that end. Okay, go 45 degrees with the table."
Yeah,
No, we just pick up the
yeah,
goddamn table and move. There's no
right.
conversation to be had. This is a huge advantage men have because it is our strong point when it comes to infrastructure. So it's not even leadership. I know this word comes up a lot, and I'm like, leader, leader. It's not even that. It's just simply the function of managing infrastructure. It's just
Well, it's
how
like
men
what I
are.
mean by leader, I mean like an executive. It's
You
an
know, I
executive
understand. It's the alpha
situation.
doing their thing,
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
it's at the top of the hierarchy. But the point is the reason that you do it, right? Like this idea that men do these things somehow to oppress some men,
No,
maybe sure, but the vast majority of us aren't doing it for that at all. We're
has
doing it to
nothing to do
uplift.
with that. It's all in
It's the
service.
complete
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah, it's the
Yes.
complete
Yeah,
opposite.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Matter
And
of fact, we're often like if we're not doing a good job in service, it's very upsetting to us when we're not doing
Right.
it.
that's right. We become lethargic and kind of useless when we're not serving, and we're seeing that happening
Yeah,
in a great extent. But it just it comes back to me constantly the hubris that I see on a daily basis. Just the fact of a bunch of women sitting down in a talk show and say, "Okay, ladies, it's all ladies here. Let's talk about lady stuff," and it's like,
Right.
what are you doing? That is incredibly narcissistic and arrogant what you're doing. Just the actual thought of it. And they do it without any thought at all. It's automatic now. Whereas in the past, things were far more controlled and community based, which is where women are strongest. Because they keep in mind, they're the ones who build the culture, not us.
Mhm.
Right.
Correct.
so question,
They
Chester. Do you have that kind of thing in Japan at all,
No,
where
no,
you have the women's talk shows and stuff?
no. Never seen it.
No.
No,
Yeah,
because here things are
but yet,
very,
but
very delineated.
right, but yet,
Yep.
like within their groups, women get together and do things. Correct.
Of course they do.
Right.
They do community-based stuff.
Right, which
And,
is much more healthier than complaining in a talk show,
well,
basically.
yeah, because they're actually doing something, right?
Right,
When it comes to taking care of the elderly and going around, make sure everyone's fed and safe and not dead somewhere in their house, the women do that, right? Of course they do
Right.
that. That's what they do. The men are out there, swinging the hammer and making sure that this shipment of that gets over to there, right? I mean, that's what we do.
Right.
And in Japan, they kind of delineate it in a very simple, very simplified way. Men take care of all the work needed outside the house, and women take care of all the work needed inside the house. It's very simplified,
and
but it's true.
and it's worked that way for a very long time in Japan. Correct.
Millennia, yeah, millennia, yeah,
Yeah, and really, has there been like, is there a problem there?
Nope, no problem at all.
Exactly.
None at all. But the Japanese are realists. They're quite practical.
Right.
So that upsets some Westerners in their practicality. It's like you have a bouncing booby girl on the anime. A Western mother would be like, "How dare you show that to my child?" Over here, they're like, "Well,
Right.
everyone likes boobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, male and
So
female. It doesn't
because
matter." Yeah.
so do the men there do it out of a control mechanism, or do they do it because, like what we were saying, basically just a service thing,
No, they just do
right?
what they do. Yeah, yeah. And of course, you'll
Yeah.
get the little jokes all the time of people like, afraid of mother, or the wife, mother, the wife.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, don't, the devil horn thing. They do here,
Yeah.
and the little jokes like that, the pussy whipped man. It's certainly a joke, but we all are, and that's why we laugh at it because whatever the woman wants is what we do. But no, it's not a thing at all. You occasionally get some women that will say that women have more freedom now than they used to, but then you also get the woman say, "Yes, that's true, but that has not helped us; it's hurt us." So, very honest conversations, really.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what I've
because
always gathered from Japan.
yeah, no, well, I mean, the one thing that it's not like Japan doesn't have its problems. Everyone does,
No, of
but
course not.
they
Right.
do civilization well. They really do.
Yeah.
They do that
That
really
that's
well.
what they've always has seemed to done very well with
Yeah, very
civilization.
efficient. They're very good at that. And although they will have a conversation here or there, they will not slow the machine to have the conversation. Add in the leisure time. It has nothing to do with the infrastructure and the moving forward of the system. The machine shall not stop. Right? Where in the West, they basically have brought the machine to a halt.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. This is why everything is decaying and falling apart. Because, let's be fair. If you want to look at things, practically and honestly, there are more women. There are a higher percentage of women who are smarter than a higher percentage of men. It's just the way it is. Women fall around a standard IQ. It's what they do.
Yeah, that's
Men
fair.
are an incredible spectrum. So there are a lot of dumbass men, whereas most women kind of sit right there in the middle. Let's be fair.
Right.
And the problem with the majority of these men, when you take them out of their system, they don't know what to do. They're lost. And that's what we're seeing today. A lot of lost people, and they've just kind of fallen into their little shell. They
Right.
just play their video games. They don't know what to do because they don't have the direction of the alpha they need. And a woman can never be an alpha. She can never be that because there's no pheromone involved. I really think it comes down to pheromones. I mean, it's a different
Yeah.
conversation, but they just don't have that. And this is why you're seeing so much trouble. And of course, then you have on a daily basis these women that are, it's not all, but it's like becoming a larger and larger percentage that are just deriding men constantly. We are better than you, you stupid thing, you evil thing, you thing that cannot be trusted. You are just useless. We don't need you. And you're just a luxury. And to be fair, in the reality that we've created in the West, it's true. Women don't need you. They have
Yeah.
no need for you at all. They got the Papa Dick from the government that will give them whatever they want. They have all their jobs, they have all their money. They don't need you. They don't. What they don't realize that this is the death knell of civilization when you do that. So yes, women, you don't need us, but you're fucking yourself in the most extreme way.
It's like you were saying, when men don't have something to do or they don't have leadership, they get lazy, right?
And
Like I even see
lethargic and
that within
suicidal, right?
within my own life. I get that. I've had those moments of times where that's happened, right?
Yeah,
And
you're
then
right.
it's like I was saying in the chat, like if I'm lazy and I'm lethargic and I don't feel like doing anything, it seems like when I get up and like just work out for like 15, 20 minutes,
Hmm.
I'm full of energy. I'm ready to do stuff, right?
Sure.
It's like the old saying of idle hands are the devil's workshop. Well,
Hmm.
people say that causes you to like if you're idle, you're more likely to imagine wrong thinking things. But it's also the fact that it just straight up makes you, you know, completely unproductive and worthless in society.
It's true, and Pablo's 100% correct. Men need to be useful. You're right, Pablo. And
Yeah.
it even goes beyond that because if we sit here and talk about the biological differences between the dimorphic species that is humanity, right? And we look at it, men they have much higher muscle tension, muscle density. They have higher lung capacity. They have a faster circulatory system. Everything about your body, and even your endocrine system, is far advanced. It's just leveled up, and it's that way for we've evolved that way or adapted that way, whatever word you prefer, because of what we do. Men are out there moving, building, physically doing stuff, and therefore it's just like if you take a look at a chimpanzee, and you give a chimpanzee a diet. Say you take a group and you have a comparative group test, and you have a group of chimpanzees that eat normal, and then you have the other group of chimpanzees you keep giving cooked food over and over and over. The ones you're giving cooked food will eventually become very sickly, right? Because they're
Yeah.
not built for it. They can eat it on occasion, but they're not built for it. Just like a dog, you can give him a cooked thing here or there. Don't give him cooked stuff all the time. He needs raw stuff,
Right.
right? However,
Right.
humans have adapted over time to where we have what the anthropologists call the pan gullet, right? We cannot eat just raw food. If you try to eat raw foods only, you will die.
Yeah.
You must eat cooked foods because we have adapted to it as your body has adapted to energetic life. And if you stop doing that, you become incredibly lethargic, sitting in front of a TV, playing computer, and you have no motivation, you have no one to love, no one to work for, no one to be useful for, you will degrade into a blob of nothing and you will eventually fade away.
Which is what we're seeing.
It's exactly what we're seeing. It's right. The proof is in the pudding. It's right there in front of you. Right. It's just what it is. It's how we function. And, of course, the problem is no one's having a proper intellectual conversation about this. Nobody is. And if you try to, you just get screamed down like that idiot Vosh was trying to do to Doug with silly platitudes often. It's just nonsense.
It's definitional sophistry, is what it is. It's
Yeah,
exactly
that's
what it
true.
is.
Yeah.
And it's old. That's as old as time itself. The term itself comes from Sophocles. It's super old, super ancient, and it's been around since, well, Western civilization's been around because it's a tactic used by the destructive forces, I would call them,
Mhm.
of our society to do exactly what he was doing there, to try and belittle and demean the traditional, which apparently just considering females women is now a traditional stance. Uh, a traditional stance. It's always been that way. It will forever be that way. It's one of the many things that brought down, quote unquote, the Roman culture and heritage.
Oh, many other
Um,
many others as well. Yeah.
yeah, and it will continue to do so because it is quite literally what the Easterners would call the yin and the yang effect.
Yeah.
These two effects are very real. The idea that they're somehow not real because science says so is preposterous because history is replete with examples of them, like you just said, like I just said. So I don't think that I think history comes in cycles, and I think we're in a down cycle now. I
We
think
are.
we're in a
We
cycle
clearly
where our
are.
civilization has built up to a level of opulence that it cannot maintain. And when that happens, what we do, what our instinct is to prop up, it seems anyway, is to prop up women to try it because, like you said, they are the mother. They are the quote bearer of life, even though men technically give life.
Well, no, you said
Um,
correctly. They bear it. Yeah.
yes, and because of that, we prop them up. We try to use them. You know, they we can. Most of our civilization, our society, our culture, even our religions to some degree, put the woman in a on a pedestal.
Yeah.
You know, she is the mother. She is the one you're supposed to
As we
cherish and
should.
love. In the Christian religion, the husband is supposed to love his wife as Christ loved the church and even give his life for her.
Hmm.
Um, stuff like that. That there is no obligation from a wife, by the way, to do the same. They have no obligation to die for you.
No,
You do
they're
have
they're
the
ordered to support and obey.
that's
Yeah.
right, and to
Right.
survive and to protect the family.
Yeah, they're not
Um,
ordered the same at all. That's true. Yeah.
and these sorts of things are the things that people like Vaush have shouted down since time immemorial because they have a different set of beliefs, they have a different set of values, and those
Well,
values are destructive to their core. They are the perfect example of people who do not understand that every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. They claim to,
oh no, I
but
think
they
they
don't
understand.
actually.
He's a vapid insect that plays off of controversy and strife. That's exactly what
Yes.
he is. They're
Well, the
leeches.
people who
Yeah.
actually believe it, the people who actually believe the stuff that he claims to believe, socialists, Marxists, the true believers, they just simply refuse to understand because it would cause too much cognitive dissonance in them. The realities of human nature. And the reality of human nature is it's a balancing act between positive and negative. The ancient
Mhm.
cultures, as I
Well,
said, had the yin and yang and other versions of this same thing. And that balancing act, that middle ground between the negative and the positive, is where civilization flourishes. When one or the other takes over, when you have too much positive, like we have now, where you have a nation, where you have a civilization obsessed with harm and not causing it, we have to protect at all costs everything, even if it's something that's technically vile. If you go against it, you're somehow committing a sin.
mhm.
Uh, when you have a via positiva, as some philosophers have called it, civilization, that is always doomed to fail. But the other way is doomed to fail too. When it's too negative, when it's just nothing but constant negativity, it will stagnate and exist for a very long time, but it'll never grow, which is what we've seen with like Islamic cultures. They're very
Yeah,
negative in their connotations, and
they
they
become
they
very
stagnate.
insular. Yeah,
Yeah, you need the balance, right? The East understood this before the West did. The East somehow forgot it for a very long time, and even I'd say a lot today, especially China, have forgotten it. But that balance is key. It's crucial to human nature. And the yin and the yang, as they call it, I would call it the chaos and the order, as the Greeks would have called it.
same thing.
It's still true though. The reality of it's very true that we are a creature of duality, and that duality is chaos and order. We're good and we're bad at the same time, and we can be good or bad. It just depends on what we decide to promulgate, what we decide to prop up,
Yeah.
where we put the spotlight. And I think for far too long we've put the spotlight on this positive, everything's, we have to love and da 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 da, all this, hippy dippy bullshit, and we've forgotten that the only way that stuff matters is if you control the negative. If you stop the negative from causing harm, that's when the love and everything matters. When you just ignore it because you don't want to hurt anything, well, then you get overrun by degeneracy, you get overrun by crime, you get overrun by violence, you get
Right.
overrun
Well,
by quite literally other nations that just conquer you and take your stuff. And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing a
yeah.
fleecing of our civilization.
Yeah, soft conquering is definitely going on. Um,
Yes.
but I it also kind of brings in mind to a conversation, a long held conversation within my world. Anthrogenetics is kind of one of my things. Matter of fact, the lectures I just gave were on exactly anthrogenetics.
Mhm.
The interesting conversation we've been having inside of the anthropological world here for several decades now, and it's become more and more prevalent recently, is how much of your free will is you and how much of it is your DNA's imperative. And
Yes.
a simpler way to put this would simply say, which is stronger, nature or nurture, right? That's a simple, layman way to put the conversation.
Mhm.
And I think it's a very interesting conversation because the anthropological or the historical world is certainly for a while was leaning into the nurture part, meaning humans have free will and they make the decisions, they control their choices, and DNA
Right.
plays or nature plays a very minor part. However, in the past decade, we've seen a radical shift. To the
Yes.
point that the information we're getting, some of the geneticists out there are saying that literally you have zero free will.
Yes.
It's all about your DNA. The nature makes all the choices. I don't agree with
Yeah.
this. But I do think that nature has a far higher percentage control over your decision making than your personal choices.
I think the fairest assessment I've seen of what you're talking about is probably around 80-20, which is interesting that the Pareto principle shows up
Yeah,
again.
I'm about
Um,
there. Yeah, I'm about there.
I'd say it's probably about that, which means you can change it. You can change your fate with enough discipline.
Yeah.
But you have to have that discipline, and discipline is not something you're born with. Don't ever let anybody tell you that. Discipline is absolutely a skill you can learn.
Oh yeah.
And if you learn that skill, if you put the time in and you discipline yourself, funnily enough, you will become more disciplined. And when you're disciplined, you're able to control your base urges just
Yeah,
by definition.
and I think that's important. I think it's a moving target, right?
Yes.
And if you can create enough discipline in yourself, it gives you more free will, more control of that. But it's never 100%.
Correct.
It's a very interesting this conversation and how it's transferred because keep in mind people are people, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't matter whether we're scientists or not scientists. People have their emotional, DNA driven opinions, right? And
Yeah.
it's not like these conversations aren't partaken in that same way amongst the anthropologists or geneticists, because it is. It is a demand amongst us that the science rule out, right or wrong, right? And it's very interesting that the further we get into understanding genetics, the more we realize how little control we have.
Yep.
It's quite fascinating, really.
It scares the hell out of a lot of neuroscientists, especially. I know
It
that for a
does.
fact.
Yeah.
They don't like the idea of killing the ghost in the machine. Um, and I actually love that idea personally because I'm like you. I'm about 80/20. I think is probably a fair assessment.
Yeah.
But that means that a lot of the problems that we have in our world aren't really anyone's fault. It's just the decisions of genetics playing out
You
on
can
society
you can
stage,
portray it that way, sure. Yeah.
and it can be fixed. You understand? That's the problem. See, that's the part that they don't like. They don't like the notion that to some degree eugenics can work. It can be fixed. We
Mhm.
know this because we've done it. We've seen it happen. We saw it happen in the Jewish diaspora all throughout Europe. They are at one point about 115 years ago were one of the lowest classes of people there were, and now they're right at the top. Now, how'd they do that? Well, you just ape them and you can do it. The Irish did it here. The Italians did it here in America too.
Sure.
Um, both of those fixed their genetic problems and their genetic deficiencies and their cultural ones in turn, and they came up because of it. You have the same thing happening with the Asians and the Indians in America now too. If you take the people that are here, the Asians and Indians, and compare them, well, maybe not so much the Asians, but the Indians definitely compare them with their counterparts from India, it's night and day how much more accomplished in things these people are. Um,
Mhm.
and they've done that intentionally through proper, discipline of their mating habits and their marital habits and things like that. These sorts of things do matter. We've gone through about 70 years now of being told that they don't, that you should be able to just do whatever you want and, oh, just marry who you fall in love with, things like this. And I get that. I understand the romantic pull of that. I'm a romanticist at heart, believe it or not. But for society, I think it's self destructive. I think when we have some form of decorum on how we structure our families in society, I think that's always going to be better. I don't see any argument against it other than it might make some people uncomfortable
Yeah.
because they got divorced or whatever the reason is. Um, I genuinely think that correction's coming though. So if you check out on YouTube, there's a bunch of young men in their early 20s who are very wealthy and very accomplished through e-commerce and other means on the internet.
Mhm.
And these young men are leading other young men younger than them and about their age to be more disciplined, to be more focused, to focus on working and fixing themselves
Yeah,
so
the
that
whole
they can
MGTOW
find,
thing. Yeah.
well, it's gone even beyond that. Like they don't even talk about that. Find the point of it is for them to eventually find a good woman and be good fathers. That is
Yeah.
literally what they all
No,
say they want.
the MGTOW movement has transitioned into something very positive, interestingly.
Yes.
Because I
And that's
remember
good.
it is good. When I first saw it, I was like, well, okay, fine. That's just a nerd screaming at the screen. But
Yep.
no, they have gone this direction, and it's a good direction to go. And it's interesting when you mention about foreigners coming into America and the success they can have,
Yep.
which is that's they're more likely to be successful than unsuccessful, which is interesting when they
Yes.
actually come to America for a purpose, right?
Right.
And that comes down to the American greatness aspect, and people like Einstein and others who were very very anti-American greatness concept, never
Yeah.
understood. It's not about America is great; it's about the potential that the greatness you can be within America.
That's right.
And many of these people, and I just chose Einstein because most people know who he is. He was very much against American exceptionalism, and
Yes.
Yeah.
he hated it, and many others too. But they're wrong.
Correct. I agree. I've been all over the world. You've been all over the world. You live on the other side of the world.
I do.
There is something special about this place.
Yeah,
And
it's
I think it's the people. I genuinely do because I've been all over the world like I said. Americans have a different spirit. When you get around Americans who genuinely have, and this isn't about politics, right or wing or nothing. They have that American spirit. they're a special kind of people, man. You don't find them in other places of the world. And it's
Right.
you can't describe it until you go other places and see other people who simply don't have it. They
Right.
just don't.
Well, because living in these other cultures, a form of lethargy comes in, right?
Yep.
And when you come to America and you have a place that you are capable of, go ahead, give it a try, and
Yep.
that kind of thinking, that motivation, it changes the way they are. And it is very true. You go find any immigrant in America. I don't mean these migrants that are just coming up taking advantage. I mean real immigrants,
Right.
and you take a look at them wherever they're from in the world and compare those people to their homeland. They are radically different. They
Yep.
really are. Yeah. Adrian, you've been wanting to pop in with something for a while, dude. Go ahead.
No, I agree with what you were saying, especially about the immigrant. Like, if it's the immigrant that, like you said, not some moochers that are coming in to take advantage, but the ones that have actually worked for it,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
there is something very much different about them.
Right. Because
Uh, Even some of the ones that have come in illegal, being the fact that, like, because I've known a few, right? They they uh, they love the country,
of course. Yeah.
but it's not the same as if you've worked for it to get
Well,
into the country.
and Adrian, it's the same thing with everything. If you're given something for free, it means nothing to you. If you worked hard and
Right.
earned it, it means everything to you. It's that old analogy of teaching a man to fish rather than just giving him fish.
Well, and ultimately,
Yeah,
it's better to come in that way, anyways. No
yeah.
matter how hard it is to get in,
It's
it's
not
better to
really.
come in that way. It's not. It's not really.
Yeah,
But because you're the legitimacy, so you're not looking behind your back all the time. You're not paranoid all the time. Because the people I knew that were here uh, illegally, they were good people. They were nice people, but they were always paranoid
yeah.
about
Well,
losing what they got.
because they come from nothing,
Exactly.
especially compared to an American. But it also comes down to the struggle, and that's the thing.
Oh yeah.
That I think a lot of foreigners run into when they come to America. They think it's all easy. It's not. You have to struggle.
Yeah.
I'll give you an
Yep.
example. Here in Japan, as long as I keep my business under $170,000 a year, right? I don't have to get into the actual business category, right? Which means I have to have $10,000 in the bank at all times. There's all these requirements and restrictions that come in. But as long as
Mhm.
you're under
Right.
that amount, you all you have to do is just simply keep a filing of your income. That's it. That's it. I don't have to get a license. I don't have to go to the city hall. I've been running a business here 20 years, several businesses, and I've never stepped foot in the city hall for it, ever. Because
Interesting.
Japan makes it super, super, super easy to have a business.
Mhm.
But yet, most people in Japan don't have their own business. Interesting,
Mm.
right?
Yeah,
I
that is interesting.
But in America, you have to jump through all manner of hoops. You have to go down here. You got to file this paperwork. You got to get this license. You got to pay for this, and that, and the other thing. And depending where you're living, it could be even more. Try to open a business in California. Good luck, right?
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass. But the thing is, that pain in the ass motivates you because most
Yeah.
people are not easily self motivated, right?
Right. Yeah, I would
Um,
agree with that.
and that struggle, that stress that America puts you under to do that, it actually helps you to be successful. And when you have these people that are coming and they've seen actual tyranny, they've seen actual bad things, and they come into
Right.
America and we have our cookie cutter level of tyranny in most cases. They strive and they take that motivation and they push through and they become incredibly successful. Some of the most successful people that come into America are Africans, black
Yeah,
Africans
that's
coming into
true.
America.
I would agree with you there.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
this whole image is,
Nigerian immigrants are one of the most profitable and successful immigrant groups
oh
there
yeah,
are.
yeah, and
Yeah.
not just them. The Ivory Coast ones are very successful too.
Yeah.
It is something about America, and it always irritated me. I keep having Einstein in my head. He pissed me off today.
Yeah.
That damn anti-American exceptionalism nonsense. Because America produces. It's a simple thing. Put up or shut up, bitch.
Yeah,
Right?
Right.
wait a minute, Albert. Where did you come to? Where did you flee
Yeah.
to,
Where
buddy?
did you go
America's
to?
not
Where
special.
did
Where'd
you
you run
become
to?
famous? Where did you become
Yeah,
super
get out of
successful?
here.
Who did
Get
you
out of here with
let
that nonsense.
create you into a freaking poster child? You shithead.
Yeah.
Um.
Exactly.
Anyway, sorry.
This is one of the reasons why I think my boy Teddy Roosevelt is probably the greatest American president because he was all about it. His whole life was about how exceptional America was from day one.
Yeah.
He was very much on that message. You know, the idea of an imperial America came about largely because of him. Um, I think the world is a better place when America understands its place.
It is.
And when we
Eh,
understand our place, we know that we're the place that people come to when they need to get something done. Because think about it, this place wasn't here 250 years ago. Most of America has been built in the last 100 years.
Well,
That's amazing.
don't get me started on the Tartarian thing, dude.
But that's amazing when you think about it. Think about how much we've done in 100 years,
Yeah, no, it is
120
impressive.
years.
It is impressive. And Teddy's interesting too because he's one of those presidents that was, if you come here, you can be exceptional too.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was not a racist or an
Nope.
alienist in any way, right?
Nope.
Whereas one of the most talked about presidents in Americans' history, old Abraham Lincoln, didn't like them foreigners at all.
Lincoln.
Didn't
I
want
wish
Yeah. He
them
was
at
very
all.
much against the
I
foreigners.
wish
He
we
was
can
very much
kill
like.
the myth of Abraham Lincoln more than any other president. His myth is the one I think is the most toxic to America because he wasn't a good man by
Yeah.
any
No, he was
objectional
a
The
pretty bad
more.
metric.
president. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more you look into him and you really dive deep, it's
It's
pretty
ugly.
crazy how bad he really was.
Yeah, he's kind of like very similar to what the Democrats are doing right now, as far
Oh
as
yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
force and steal and cheat and take is what he was. Keep in mind, he
Zealous.
jailed many of his opponents. Keep this in mind.
Or
Yeah.
deported him.
Or that's right, or or disappeared them. But
Yes.
also keep in mind that I wonder if he wonder back and if he had been successful in his determination, because one of his big things that Black Americans don't seem to pay attention to at all, he wanted to deport every one of your asses back to Africa. He
Yep.
pushed
Even if
hard
you were
for that.
born here. Even if you were born here,
It
he was
didn't
going to
matter.
kick
He
you out.
wanted all blacks out of the
Yeah. He
country
did.
back in
Yep.
Africa.
Back in Africa.
And
Yeah.
this is the guy they praise.
Yep. He freed the slaves though, Chet. Well, he didn't though. Uh, the Emancipation Proclamation is propaganda utterly and entirely because he didn't free all the slaves. That's not what happened.
Who brought up
Yeah.
Lincoln? Is this your fault
I did.
again? Yeah, it's your
No,
fault.
no, no, never. No, you brought up Lincoln. Wait a minute. Why am I taking the blame?
Yeah. That's how you do that, Adrian. Write that down. Just write that down. Right.
That
But
works on most people. I've done it before.
yeah, it does. But yeah, no, there's many conversations you can have about. But Teddy, go. You should take some time, go research Teddy
Yeah,
Roosevelt.
we need a Teddy now.
He was pretty impressive. Yeah,
Desperately need a Teddy Roosevelt-like president
yeah,
now. One who is able to cross the bridges and make the establishment on both sides hate him, but the people love him.
yep,
We need a Teddy now, desperately.
yeah. No, well, we need something, but I'm not sure what's going to happen in that regard. I have a feeling here in November we are going to have a complete reversal of the Congress. I would assume it seems to be going that way, and I would assume that in 2024 we will have a Republican president. I don't know if it'll be Mr. Trump or it'll be Mr. Um,
Man. They're
the
really
Ronnie
working.
boy.
They're really working to try to get these people in trouble some way or another.
well, of course they've been doing that with Trump for 5, 6 years,
Well,
desperate,
I've
and
been
they've still
telling them.
found
I've
nothing.
been
It's
saying.
not just Trump though. It's the people
Everybody. No,
like
you're right.
I've
everybody.
been
It's
It's
corrupt.
saying,
everybody.
and they don't want to hear it because they're arrogant. The hubris thing again, Chester. Trump is the olive branch. They need to take it. I'm telling you, I've studied history enough. I know where the republic's at. If they don't take the olive branch of Sulla, they're going to feel the fist of Caesar. That's what's
Yeah,
going to
no,
happen.
and what I think would be the ultimate scenario, would be 4 more years of Trump irritating the wound, and
Yeah.
then DeSantis to come in and cleanse it for 8.
Yeah. We need somebody who's willing to be hated. Trump isn't that guy, at least not as much as he should be. Right? He really seems to want their approval. I don't know why, but he does. Maybe he doesn't anymore, but he did during his presidency. Santos doesn't seem to give a shit.
No.
So I
No, I think
we'll see.
DeSantis is one of the best choices for a solution. Although
Yeah.
I think Trump still has a part to play. Matter of fact, I think the most brilliant move he could make would be a Trump DeSantis ticket.
What do you think? And this, I know it sounds crazy, but other people floated. I floated. What do you think of Tucker Carlson?
As president,
Yep,
Tucker.
old Tuck boy with his bow.
Um,
I want him to bring the bow tie back if he gets elected, though. That needs to be his thing. Bow
I
tie.
think
Should
he
be the
would
bow
be a very practical, moderate leader.
I do too.
In reality, I don't think
Yeah,
he
yeah.
would make as many waves as you would expect him to, though.
I don't either. I think
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. I the problem I have with DeSantis isn't that I disagree with him most of the time on policy. He's done a couple things I disagree with, but by and large, I agree with him,
Sure.
and I like his chutzpah, as the Jews would say. Uh, but I don't trust him, and I don't know why. There's something about this dude.
Well,
He just
he's
he
Cuban.
rubs me the wrong way. That's probably it.
Yeah,
Them
that's what it
Cubans,
is.
shifty,
It's
shifty
Cubans,
Cubans.
shifty Cubans. But
They
no,
make a good cigar,
I,
though.
I think he's a
A
pretty
good cigar.
standard politician. He just happens to be conservative and practical.
Yeah.
Because the thing, and I've said this before, and I do need to wrap up. I just looked at the clock, Jesus. I'll say this before. The problem we have with government is it's become a beauty contest, right?
Yeah.
And and inside Congress, whatever, fair enough. I don't really care. But when it because they'll never agree on anything really for any length of time. They're constantly undercutting themselves. But the president needs to be a manager, just like the governor or the
Mm.
mayor or the chief. They need to be managers, and a manager is a very different mindset than a politician. And
Yeah.
DeSantis is a very effective manager, right? Trump is also a very effective manager, right? This is what
Mm.
these guys, and I think DeSantis is probably a better manager than Trump because DeSantis also understands the political animal where Trump has no clue, right?
Right.
So someone like that who is really good at managing things is what you need. You need it, and we've had not a great succession of leaders, managers in quite a while.
No.
Take a look back with Obama. Would you consider him an effective manager?
No.
No.
No. He's
He
very good at giving speeches.
he's a
He can
good
give a good
speaker,
speech.
but he did
Yeah.
nothing. He
He's
accomplished
good at
nothing.
talking like he's going to be a good manager, but yeah, he did
No,
nothing.
he's completely ineffective. He literally did
Well, he
nothing
did
in 8
one
years.
thing, Chester. He brought back African slavery. So I don't. I mean, he did that. He got that
He
accomplished.
did.
Good on him.
He and Hillary together, they accomplished that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let's go back to Baby Bush. Is he an effective manager?
No.
No, he's not.
He's a pretty good painter, though. I'll give him that. He can
Yeah,
paint
fair
some.
enough. Was
Yeah.
Bill Clinton an effective manager? A little
I
bit.
mean,
A little bit.
he was good at getting
That's
blowjobs
better
on
than
COVID.
the last two you
No,
mentioned.
no, he's
But
definitely a better manager than the last two, but still more
yeah,
politician than manager.
yes,
Think
more
back, when
politician.
was the last good manager we had? Ronald
I'm
Reagan.
going to tell you one.
Well,
Well, I
Ronald
go back
Reagan was a
even
very
further.
effective manager.
I go back even further. I'd say probably Eisenhower, and that's mainly just because he was a
Oh
general
boy,
at a
you're
high level.
pulling my eye teeth with that one, but fair
I
enough.
know.
No, he was a
I
good
know.
manager too. But I'm
His
just saying,
first few years as president were really good, and then he kind of went off the rails a bit for a while there. But
yeah.
yeah,
Hey
when he
Edwin,
first
what's
got in
up,
there,
dude?
he did quite a bit of
Well,
good
it seems
stuff.
like some of the better presidents have been the ones that have had military experience in some
Well,
form or fashion.
and thus the management aspect, right?
Yes.
But I mean, that's
Yeah.
something people seem to miss with a president. It's not like a congressional politician, a so-called legislator.
Well, it's not
Uh,
supposed to be.
well, it's not,
Right.
but it's just not. It's not the job isn't what it is. It's you're literally a manager, and you need someone who's really good at that. And I think that's why Trump potentially could be a really good president. And I think DeSantis would be a very effective president because if you pay attention, whether you agree with everything he says or not or does, it doesn't matter. Go take a look at the management capability of DeSantis. That dude gets shit done. He gets it
Yeah.
done, dude, and
Regardless of
very
who gets in
effectively.
there, if their credo is not to dismantle the administrative state from head to toe and rebuild it in an image of, constitutionalism and what it's supposed to do, it really won't matter because that state is evergreen. They always exist and apparently keep growing for some reason. So as long as that albatross is hanging around the neck of the American government, uh, it really doesn't matter. And I think that's kind of what Trump found out. Now, hopefully, if he does run and he wins, he is that guy because he's only going to have one term anyway. He can only serve 2 terms.
Right.
So hopefully he is that guy and he cleans house.
Yeah.
But it's going to be very dangerous for a person to do that, obviously, like
Well,
literally physically
it,
dangerous.
it desperately
Um,
needs to get done, though. But I
yeah,
think if Trump has any chance of becoming president again, he needs to have DeSantis as his vice president. I
yep.
think that might be an undefeatable ticket. But
Well, that's
no.
a cheat.
Well, which they already did. There were certain shenanigans going on. But however, we know this is true, even though you're not allowed to say it. But it should not have been that close to allow them to do that. It shouldn't have been, right?
No.
So that's the problem from my point of view. But one thing that's very clear that needs to be dealt with: the FBI, the DOJ, and I imagine most of the departments in America need to be shut down. They all need to
Yes.
be shut down, and they need to start fresh, and recreate something. And we
Yes.
cannot tolerate this amount of partisanship within our government bodies. We
Right.
cannot. It's unacceptable that, and I'm sure there's plenty. Most of the FBI are probably good people. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the leadership. It is spoiled goods. It needs to be cut out. It's a cancer that is unacceptable what they're doing. And I'm not just talking about Mar-a-Lago. They've been getting worse for years and years and years. They're overstepping their bounds. They are highly partisan. It needs to be dealt with, as well as the DOJ. And I imagine many other departments. The CIA is also guilty of this. I'm assuming the NSA and NSS are probably also guilty. We just don't talk about them very much. And there are
Right.
many other organizations. We know that the DOD is not the DOJ. The DOD is 100% corrupted and fouled. Look at the shit they're doing. How many? Do you realize how many of our good serving military men have been kicked out because they don't have the right politic? Do you understand
Yeah.
how these people have weakened the American military in a course of what, 2 years?
2 years, man. Yeah,
Well,
it's bad.
It is very
now
bad.
we're openly losing war games to every other country on the earth,
Yep,
basically.
well, it's the
Like,
same thing
that's
with
where
the
we're at.
Olympics because in the society at large, this American exceptionalism, this thing to strive to be better, is dying. It's
Yeah.
become cancerous, and you have these people that aren't trying, they aren't doing anything because you beat the men down, they've fallen into their shell, and you can see it with something as simple as sport. We are
Yeah, you're right.
starting to not be dominant because we are not putting people in the field.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what the medal count was at the Olympics, but it was not what we've performed in the past
It,
for
it
sure.
wouldn't. It's not what it should be,
Not even
and it's
close.
simply because we don't have as many people in the field because they've been pushed out, they've been degraded, they've been, they're not good enough. They have no motivation. Matter of fact, to be a successful athlete as a male these days is looked at as a negative,
Yeah.
right? Oh, the testosterone, right? It's like,
Yes.
well, that you get what you ask for, and it's across the board. Whoever comes in from the Republicans, because I think it's pretty clear we're not going to get a Democrat again. They need desperately to clean house, and for someone like Trump, who's only getting 4 years, right, because of the system, maybe he's the right guy. I mean, they're desperately tried to imprison this guy for years and years and years, and he's ducked it. So maybe he's the guy to go in there and make that sacrifice because someone needs to do it.
Yep.
When I met with Trump's team at the RNC back in, oh, that's right, you did do that, Edwin. 2020, I was alarmed how weak their plans were for election security. Trump needs to do a much better job of developing a coherent administration if he runs and wins again. I agree.
Yes.
And I think 4 years need to be focused on restructuring the government and then let DeSantis take over. I think that would be a great idea, Edwin.
I think if he did run with DeSantis, which is probably what's going to end up happening, let's be honest, because they'll probably fight it out in the primaries, and then he'll pick him as his running mate.
Yeah, I think that's what'll happen. Yeah, that's a smart move,
And
right? It's the
yeah, and I think what he'll do is he'll delegate a lot of that stuff to DeSantis, of a lot of the, the
well,
handling of that
he's good at it.
field.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's no
yeah,
reason not to. DeSantis is popular. He's well liked, especially among Republicans. He's a very effective and very authoritative. When he wants to do something, he gets it done as quickly as he possibly can, and that's desperately what is necessary. Trump didn't have that. He didn't have a right hand man
Well,
that actually had authority, and a part of that was his fault because he didn't pick one. But he just didn't have that when he was in there the first time. He had a whole bunch of people undercutting him constantly. Literally, the DoD lied to him for a year, which is treason to lie to the commander in chief about operations in the field for a year. But they got away with it because, as you said, it's horrifically corrupt.
it is, and the thing is, you really need to start holding these people accountable.
Yep.
And it's not a political statement, by the way. It has nothing to do with
No.
politics. It has to do with the fact that there should be no politics in this regard. Everyone is political, has their own opinions, their own zeitgeist. Of course, this is true. But when you're in a capacity within the government, the actual bureaucracy of the government, you cannot, you must not allow your personal opinions to effectively alter the system, and that's
Yep.
exactly what we have going on. And it's been clear to me for a very long time, but I think it's becoming clearer to the average citizen now. Right?
Good.
Yeah.
It's the only way to save this place is to tear down the institutions that are strangling it. And if America is to not break up in our lifetime, which is what I actually want, but if it's going to be saved, then the only way is for somebody to come in, marry us, reform it up, reform the government, reform the military, get our situation in a much better, more professional manner, because that's the ultimate problem. These people are activists; they're not professionals, and get that taken care of, which can be done very quickly,
Mhm.
actually, especially the administrative state. The president can pretty much just start wiping it out. A lot of those places were created by the swipe of a pen.
They
They
were.
can be undone by the swipe of a pen.
They were.
So I would hope that Trump understands this. I think he does from the things, little tidbits I've seen. I know DeSantis understands it. So hopefully there's not too much tomfoolery. I'll be as diplomatic with my language as possible coming up here in these next two election cycles. And hopefully, if there is, the American people finally find out, remember who they are, and we just take care of it the other way.
Yeah.
Because
No.
we have within the United States law, the very first law of this country is we are allowed to rebel. It is permitted by the Declaration of Independence. That is the law of the land. It is the first legal document in the country. We absolutely have the right to rebellion. Thomas Jefferson said it would probably be best for us to do it every 20 years or so.
Yeah, no, he did. That's kind of interesting. And but we really need the adults to step up for a while.
Yes.
And not only do the American people have the right to rebel, we actually have a state in America which has that right, Texas. They
Correct.
put that in their charter. Texas actually has the right to vote themselves out of the union. It's the only state that has that actual right. The people have their own rights, but I'm talking about state-wise. And I'm
Right.
kind of wondering, Texas has been toying around with that for a couple decades, right? And I'm kind of wondering where Texas will go if we do have a major scandal like we did last time, and some shenanigans are done, because
It
it's
may not even matter. And because the last time when Trump won, the left was so apoplectic about it. I mean, Hillary was whining about it she still is, as far as I know,
Yeah,
that
she
the
is.
election was stolen from her by Russian bots or whatever
Okay.
nonsense story she came up with.
Yeah.
But it may not even matter. California, especially, is so crazy left wing that if Trump, let's say a Trump DeSantis ticket gets in there and they start actually, being effective at rolling back the excesses of the administrative state,
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see it. The lefty states start popping up, talking about it more because they were during Trump, big time. There was a big
Yeah.
movement in California
Well,
with like 35% approval or something like that to secede for California to become its own country.
That's true. In the negative.
Yeah,
But keep in mind, California is not as unified as people think. The cities control the power, of course. But there
yes,
are a lot of conservatives in California that are sick of that shit. And that's why you've heard proposals of California breaking into 3 to 5 separate states,
yep.
because they want to have their own voice. And with our electoral college system, it allows smaller populations to have an actual say in things. Which I know the left hates, but it is a very effective way to have a cultural unification rather than a true democracy. And this is something that kills me all the time too. People keep saying the American democracy. We are not a democracy. We are a
Correct.
constitutional republic. We are not a democracy, and thank God we're not.
People
And
all the time on that one.
in fact, the first iteration of our electoral system was much more oligarchic in nature than it
It
was
was.
democratic.
I still think we should go back to the landowners are the ones that have the right to vote anyway. But I'm probably
I
in the
think
minority.
landowners or local business owners that have more than 10 employees.
Yeah, something,
You have to have skin in
something.
the game.
You have to have skin in the game, exactly.
Yeah.
And because when you give the average crackhead on the street an equal vote to the guy who's trying to have his sustainable farm sustain,
It's
that's
preposterous.
ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
preposterous. It's
It's
outrageous
Sure.
thinking. Um, but whatever. I do need to go. I am certainly at my
Let's
time.
get out of here,
I am
Chester. Let's
going
do
to.
it.
And
Well,
I
Chester, we haven't had you around for so long. We're trying to keep you here as long as we can.
fair enough. But I do
Because
have
we don't know if you'll just
responsibilities.
disappear on us again.
I didn't disappear. I told you exactly where I was going.
He did say. I just forgot about it. He mentioned it in the chat.
Yeah, I was off to the continent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Um.
smallest continent, but yes,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I was, Adrian, I was disappointed. The French food wasn't very good.
I told you.
So I heard. So I heard you say.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. French food never really looked all that great to me, to be honest.
But I've been told my whole life. Julia Childs told me.
She lied.
She lied to me.
Like all things on TV, she lied.
She did. But anyway, thank you guys. I am back. I am here for the foreseeable future. I don't have any plans, so that's good. To keep in mind, tomorrow we have ourselves Bugbear's Basement. We will be continuing in our Imperious run. I think so. And of course, we'll be back next time. Normally on Night Owls will return next Sunday. I just I couldn't do it with this return because I returned yesterday. So, but nevertheless, glad to be back. Glad to be back amongst proper English speakers. You know, and thank you all
Proper.
very much. And Adrian, would you have any closing arguments, sir?
No, but I would say we're supposed to have Doug Garrett of Lone Wolf comic fame
Uh-huh.
on Drawn and Quartered this week for his new book,
No, we haven't talked to
Psychotron, I
Doug in a
believe.
while. That sounds good.
Yeah, he's supposed to be on this week, so.
Awesome. I'll look forward to it. Thank you. Hi, Grimlock. You've been there quiet for a little while. You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I was letting you guys have the convo on and just sitting back and listening.
Well, it would have been nice to have you here for that great Maverick conversation, though.
So you could have an opposing side at least.
Right? Right. I know you're not a big fan of Mr. Cruz, but dude, it's a really good movie, man.
It is.
Yeah, it's
It
very
is. It's
solid.
not your typical Tom Cruise movie.
No,
It's really good.
it honestly isn't. Tom usually is just Tom. I mean, he is what he is, right? This is one of those exceptions where there's actually quite a bit of humility in his character, Grimlock, which is rare for Tom Cruise.
That's
Yeah,
what I
it's not
gathered
humble.
from what everybody's told me.
Yeah, no, you
It's all
should
right.
definitely watch it,
I'm
Adrian. It's
still
excellent.
not watching it.
That's fine. That's fine. I understand. I understand.
I told you he has an irrational hatred of Tom Cruise.
No, I understand. Well, I almost didn't watch Gray Man because I didn't want to. I just didn't want to give any kind of love to Chris Evans. I didn't. But my wife was. So I was like, fine. So we watched The Gray Man, and it's not a Chris Evans movie at all. It's a Gosling movie, and it's fun. Go watch it. You can
I'll
watch
recommend
that
it.
one. Are you anti Ryan Gosling?
No, but I wouldn't mind slapping that piss out of Chris Evans every now and then.
Oh,
dude.
that would be. No spoilers. Yeah, no spoilers. Chris Evans is the bad guy, though, so bad guys ensue. Yeah, no, I definitely support the young goose, person.
The young
Well,
Goose.
I don't know why he calls it's a Gosling. I mean, he is what he is, right? Yeah, he
I
must
like
be
it.
Downey. I don't know.
I
He got
know
himself
he.
jacked, dude.
Well, he's worked out for. Yeah, he's been kind of that way for a while now because he did some other movies where he was like pretty fit.
Well, he's a good action star. He does it quite well, and this movie
Oh, he's
doesn't do
good.
a lot of the cutaway. It's straight up, solid static camera action. It's good. But
I'll have to give that a shot.
Yeah, no, it's definitely worth it. I would say that Day Shift, it had everything there to be cool, but it's just not. It's unfortunate. But yeah, oh, Gosling, man, check that out. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Takes out of here, Thunder.
I'm going to do two things. I'm going to read us a Bible verse, and then I'm going to do a quote from one of the most important authors of our age. Bible verse is Hosea 8:7. For they sow the wind, and they shall reap the whirlwind. There is no standing grain what sprouts fails to yield flour. Even if it should produce, the foreigners will swallow it up. And Alexander Solzhenitsyn, which is a ridiculous Russian name,
Mhm.
is a very good man. He wrote their Gulag Archipelago. You can resolve to live your life with integrity. Let your credo be this: let the lie come into the world, let it even triumph, but not through me. The
Mhm.
simple step of a courageous individual is not to take part in the lie.
Yep, that's true. Namaste, indeed. Later, everybody.